tonight. That makes him the second most scrutinized player on the Redskins offense, the first being quarterback Mark Brunell, who's nearly 36 years old and in a new offensive system, failed to produce a single point in a winless preseason for the Redskins. And it was interesting to note this is not something he wanted to do at this point in his career, but he said you can't look at what they've done with this offense with the Rams and the Chiefs and not embrace it. For a report on the Vikings, let's go to Sal Palantonio.
The Vikings also have a new offense. This is not Dante Culpepper throw it deep to Randy Moss and Chris Carter anymore. This is the timing and rhythm West Coast offense that Brad Childress brought over from Philadelphia. Luckily, he has Brad Johnson to run it. He ran it to perfection with the Tampa Bay Bucks, won a Super Bowl, but he's got a big hole to fill. Corin Robinson is out. They've got to find a go-to difference maker wide receiver on this team if they're going to have any success, Stu.
Thanks a lot, guys. Now on ESPN.com, Joe Theismann explains on Monday Night Surround why it's important for Mark Brunell to stay in the pocket and make plays with his arm. Still ahead on NFL Prime Time. Big win against the Panthers yesterday, but can we expect more of that from number 7 this season? The guys break down the delicate maturity of...
All right, Stu, we look forward to seeing you a little bit later on, but as you can see, they're ready for some football in the nation's capital. They've been here since, probably lunchtime. We are about 2.5 hours away to kickoff, and we, of course, are getting all set for a 2-hour edition of Monday Night Countdown leading into our 7 o'clock kickoff here. The Redskins and the Vikings. Glad to be part of prime time again, and Tommy and I, personally, are glad to be part of prime time.
I think this is my first time on prime time.
Right?
We're on prime time.
You're on prime time. Hey! And I shouldn't say just Tommy and I, but Mike and Steve Young, they're personally thrilled to be part of prime time.
I don't want to make a speech or anything, but I'm a little verklempt over the whole thing.
You should make a speech. Here's what we got to decide. I know we got 2 games left for week 1. Steve, game breakers.
Hey, right out of the gate, Kurt Warner with Anquan Bolden, Larry Fitzgerald tore up the 49ers. He made all kinds of throws, especially running to his left. I thought he was very dynamic, looked super. I think he's trying to answer those questions of can he stay on all year. Hey, how about Donovan McNabb? Off-season leadership decides, I'm going to take it on myself. I'm going to be in Philadelphia the whole year. I'm going to make a statement about this season. Comes out and makes a big statement on the road in Houston. I think Donovan's obviously going to lead this team and rectify whatever was wrong last year. Hey, my number 1 game breaker, Chad Pennington, will you answer all of your critics, come off double shoulder surgery, and you do it with a performance like that with such class. Chad Pennington, my number 1 game breaker yesterday. Congratulations, Chad. Stay healthy, buddy. I thought the Jets and he played super.
Well, Steve, let me go to my skill players. I didn't think that you would put Kurt Warner up there talking about your 49ers, so I made sure I had Larry Fitzgerald as my number 3 playmaker. 9 receptions for 133 yards in that shot against Steve Niners. He beat Steve Niners 30-27. Number 2, Dante Starr. I'm telling you, this man didn't do so well up and down careers in New Orleans, but he's coming to Philadelphia, and he's showing I will be the number 1 guy here. He had a great game yesterday.
With a Connecticut area code.
Don't lose the viewers.
We'll be back here in Oakland all night during Countdown at halftime. For now, from Oakland to Washington, D.C., guys.
Mark Brunell already inside, getting set for Monday Night Football as the Redskins in the first half of the Monday Night Football doubleheader, first ever, take on the Minnesota Vikings. We're ready.
You ready? Let's go.
A timeless football tradition has found a new home.
Right here, right now.
It's Monday Night Football, where the stars shine on the NFL's biggest stage.
1, 2, 3,
After a playoff season, the Redskins stumbled in the preseason. Can Washington's Hall of Fame coach lead them to victory against the revamped Vikings? Art Shell returns to restore order in the Raider Nation.
wide open, touchdown!
It's Randy Moss against LT and the Chargers in a showdown out west.
Here we go, here we go.
Brace yourself. A season-opening doubleheader starts now on Monday Night Countdown.
10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power.
Monday Night Countdown is delivered by UPS.
A somber, reflective day in Washington, D.C. and across the nation. The 5th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. Two symbols of democracy. There's the Capitol. You saw the Washington Monument. Tonight, sports once again becomes a bit of an escape, a tonic. And in this area, that means the beloved Redskins in the nation's capital at FedEx Field are going to kick off their season with much anticipation as they begin Monday Night Football against the Minnesota Vikings. And hello once again, everybody. Welcome to Monday Night Countdown. We are excited to bring you the 37th season of Monday Night Football, but of course, our first on ESPN. We're happy to continue the tradition with our brethren at ABC and to start a new tradition ourselves. Our crew, as you can hear, of course, the new hit song, at least for this week, is Hail to the Redskins. Our crew is going to be on the road with Monday Night Countdown at all the ballparks every week. And so, no strangers to the field of Monday Night Football. The one-time MVP and Super Bowl MVP, Steve Young. I don't know if you were here.
Always love Monday night, Boomer.
Michael Irvin as well, another man that played the big stage many times.
Thank you,
and
Boomer.
played here every year.
Yeah, I did a little damage here, as you can tell.
They love you.
Yeah, I understand.
And certainly a veteran of Monday Night Football as well from another life, but for the last 20 years. Tom Jackson has been with us, and we, of course, are welcoming you back in a cast of thousands coming up here on this 2-hour edition of Monday Night Countdown. All right, we got a lot of football to talk about. Get set for the games tonight. We'll hear from Stu and the gang out west. We'll also look back at yesterday. All right, tough preseason for the Redskins. 0-4. They in Pittsburgh were the only undefeated. No times in the red zone. No first-team offensive touchdowns. Are we concerned here, Tom? What are we looking for?
Well, I'm certainly concerned. I think no matter what stock you put into preseason, you want to see something if you're a head coach. So I think that when you look at this football team, it's Daniel Snyder, it's Joe Gibbs, it's his assistants. This team has to be wondering, are we as bad as we appear to be in the preseason? We're going to find out tonight.
Well, let's look over to the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, they're coming into their first ball game under Brad Childress. He inherits a team that finished 7-2 last year. They're the most balanced team in their division, both offensive and defensively. But more importantly, Brad Childress brings with him the organizational toolkit that he got from Andy Reid, who got it from Mike Holmgren, who got it from Bill Walsh. That tells you that Brad Childress is Bill Walsh's great-grandson.
Organizational toolkit. Here Steve comes out. I want you to know all three of those guys, they lost in their opening game in the NFL. And I'm anxious to watch Brad Childress and what he can do in his opening game. And those three guys Steve mentioned, they didn't play under the lights. All of these lights that we here at ESPN will bring to the Monday night stage. Michael must have done such damage here. Like this everywhere I go.
It's my job to make an observation here. All your rowdy friends are here on Monday night, apparently, Mike. First of all, if Brad Childress would make him your coach by following the family tree, but Walsh to my coach.
It's all about genealogy.
There you go.
Follow your
Gibbs,
genealogy.
Coach Joe Gibbs, 157 and 82, 3 Super Bowls and a 4th appearance, which you didn't win. Brad Childress 0-0. But the beauty of football is tonight they're both 0-0, and it's even Steven as well. Last season, the Redskins in Gibbs' second year of coming back were 10-6. They won 6 straight games before they lost in the second round of the playoffs to the Seattle Seahawks. They added some firepower, and former Steeler Antoine L. And the preseason was a struggle. We told you that they were 0-4, outscored by 77 points, and the dislocated shoulder of Clinton Portis still a concern. He won't start tonight. Every 20 minutes, a 2020 report. Here's Susie Colbert.
Well, Chris, Clinton Portis has been quantifying his health coming back from that dislocated left shoulder with percentages by the hour. When we talked to him at the Redskins facility on Saturday, it was 96.3, and before we left, it was already 96.9. He's hoping for 101 tonight. As soon as he comes out for pregame warm-ups, we'll chat with Clinton and we'll find out what that number is. But as you said, what we do know is that he will not start, but he will play. Joe Gibbs told us that they tracked it with trainers all week. He hit the bag. He has full strength in that shoulder, so they feel good about that. They want to get him in the game and in the groove, and that's a moral victory, considering just days ago, Portis didn't think he would play at all. He credits dedication and a will to get back out there. And he said what you need to do is learn to operate around the injury, which makes you believe he'll play in a little bit of pain. Liddell Betts will get the third start of his career, Chris.
All right, Susie, thank you very much. The Minnesota Vikings, as Steve mentioned, finished 7-2 after a 2-5 start. But Brad Childress is in last season. He led the NFL in catches of 40 yards or more, ahead of Chad Johnson, ahead of Steve Smith. But as the guys down at the demo field show us, it's not all about the deep ball when it comes to Santana, right, fellas?
No, it is not, Boom. It's not always about the deep ball. Santana Moss from the U. No one makes more big plays than Santana Moss, and I want to show you how he makes it. It's not just about going deep. They got a play called the bubble screen. Santana Moss from the U. He's great with the run after the catch. So look for Washington to use this play a lot. Steve plays running back. Tom, he's my other wide receiver. As he comes in motion, when he snaps the ball, it's a quick screen up. He'll throw the ball to Santana Moss. Now, this receiver will block outside, and then Steve will turn to my tackle. He will seal the blocks inside. Now, as a receiver, you have to be able to hit this hole and then shoot back. And in order to do this, you have to be fast, but more importantly, be explosive. And that's what Santana Moss is. And explosiveness is the ability to get to top speed in a hurry.
And I think you make the point that's very rare in the pros that you have the speed to run this play. It's mostly in college. And tactically, it can't be a play that you bail. Most screens bail quarterbacks out. Hey, he's struggling, throw a screen. This is not one to bail a quarterback out because I think you have to be on the move offensively to call this play. It's a very specialized play.
And I think you point to a bigger point, Steve, which is the lack of success that the Redskins offense has had this preseason. We're going to see a lot of trick plays, bubble screens, and some other things, I think, including Randall L. in order to get that offense started.
With everything else in doubt, get the ball to the guy from the U. Boom, back to you.
Back to you. Which you, Mike? Thank you. Fans, the FedEx Field, they're getting ready. We're set for kickoff in about an hour. Quarterback Mark Brunell getting set for tonight's game, going over the game plan, obviously. And now it's time for our Teams at 20 update. Up first, Michelle Tafoya with the Vikings.
Well, Chris, the Vikings offensive line has been getting a lot of attention, but what about the defensive line? Of the starting front four, 3 were first-round draft picks: Erasmus James, Kenshi Udeza, and Kevin Williams. And the 4th, Pat Williams, is a 10-year veteran who led the defensive linemen in tackles last season with 88. Now, the 2 ends, Erasmus James and Kenshi Udeza, have said they each want at least 10 sacks this season. But the goal tonight is to put enough pressure by this front four on Mark Brunell. He's one of the least mobile quarterbacks that the Vikings will face this season, and he's implementing a brand new offense. And for that side of the story, here's Susie Colbert.
Well, Michelle, there is no doubt that Mark Brunell holds the key to the success of this Redskins offense, which certainly didn't look very good in the preseason. With Brunell starting in the preseason, the first-team offense couldn't score a point. But here's the thing. What no one outside the Redskin organization has seen is this offense at full force. Behind closed doors, they've been working since March, and we got a peek at the offense over the weekend. Fast tempo, lots of motions and shifts, variations in formation. Most of the coaches and the players feel confident that it will fly tonight, but there's also a nervous excitement because they haven't been on the field in a game situation in full speed. Leading that call is Mark Brunell, who, Chris, he says he's still a bit uncertain.
All right, Susie, thank you so much. An emotional reflective. We had a hot dog, we had a hamburger, we had a bit soda, and we had a soda and some water, and now here we are inside where some of the fans with the magic of TV. Now we're ready for some football, huh?
I feel like we're ready to play some. I'm ready now. We're out the parking lot. I'm not so sure.
We're
right here.
Stadium.
Yes.
Yes.
I can smell the grass.
You didn't play too many NFL games in the parking lot, did you?
No. Right.
Some of us were relegated to parking lot football. Well, of course, Joe Gibbs, legendary here in Washington, 3 Super Bowls, is already in the Hall of Fame, came back. This is year number 3. Joe Gibbs, a little kind of sneaky humorous in his own right. Here he is in soundtrack.
I'm Mike, so don't say anything bad. How you doing? I told him I'm Mike, don't say anything.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's go. Get that thing out there so we can go to work. Let's go. Let's go, baby. Yeah. Pearson. Good job there, Mike. Good job. That's the way it's supposed to go. Good job, man. Vernon, good job there, Rock. Yeah, did that spill look as good as I thought it did? I mean, we wiped out the side over there, didn't we? On that outside, it looked like there was a hole back inside, but somehow somebody came off that. It's hard for me to tell from here. The way they lined up, they got real wide on the wing, real wide. Challenge it. Challenge it. This is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. The ball came out before you moved down. That is ridiculous. Crying out loud. Why do you even have instant replay? Gosh, plain as a nose on your face.
Throw it again.
All right, hey, come on, let's do something now. Let's get rolling. Let's get rolling. Step up and get it going. Put Todd in there. Put Todd in there. Hey, just stand up and be a man. You got to make your plays, man. It wouldn't hurt anything to go high wing motion before he got C-seal. Try to take a shot right at him. Knock it up in there. A heck of a play by Todd. It's a great play by Todd. I appreciate what you did tonight. Hey, right. you got us set.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, I'm going to tell you, that was big time right there. Good job. All right, hey, man, have a good one.
I'd like to say Joe Gibbs unplugged, but it's more like Joe Gibbs plugged. Well, one thing he's done is plug the two times that he's played against the coach that is making his NFL head coaching debut. One of his disciples, Joe Bugle, with the then Phoenix Cardinals, and one Buddy Ryan with Philadelphia. He rolled in those games. How will Brad Childress, rookie head coach, fare tonight? So, and our keys to victory, we talked about at the beginning of this 2-hour Monday Night Countdown, and of course you can't overlook it. Joe Gibbs with all that experience, Brad Childress with head coaching experience in the NFL Game 1. Will this be a big factor tonight, Steve?
You know, Boomer, not as much as you might think, because Joe Gibbs did something that was kind of unprecedented for him. Last year, he stepped away, and Al Saunders is actually going to call the plays. And so with Joe on the sideline stepping back, he's giving his offensive coordinators a lot of latitude. When you go with a new coach like Brad Childress, he's actually got that West Coast toolkit that we've talked about all day. He's got the game plans. He's got for 25 years, he's seen what's worked for the West Coast. He knows it well. Meeting times, travel times. He's got it all down. He doesn't have to make it up on the run. Both these guys are going to come in pretty reserved and respected. I don't think it's going to be a big difference.
But for Coach Gibbs, his key to victory will be with this man right here, Clinton Portis. How well is that shoulder? How much can he run? Because if he can run well, then that brings everybody up in the box and give Mark Brunell an opportunity to make some plays. I talked to the guy that came in, Dr. Nelson Patanzi, to work on Clinton Portis' shoulder. He said, surprisingly, Clinton Portis feels great, and look for him to play a lot tonight.
Well, with the investment that the Minnesota Vikings made in Steve Hutchinson and that offensive line, it had better be the offensive line for the Minnesota Vikings. You team him up with Bryant McKinney and Matt Burke back from injury. You imagine what Alexander was able to do with the Seattle Seahawks with the left side of that line. I think they envision similar things with Chester Taylor with the left side of this line. And don't forget Tony Richardson, one of the better blocking fullbacks in the game.
Well, here's how you voted at home. We will check your keys to the game each week here on Monday Night Countdown. Here it is.
That means
Keys to Victory is brought to you by GMC. Log on to ESPN.com. Search GMC each week for a chance to win an all-new 2007 Sierra. 16 weeks, 16 trucks, 16 winners.
All right, that was a vote on what's coming on tonight. Now, let's do something that you guys have all enjoyed on Monday Night Countdown before. Admittedly, we haven't even finished the first week, so let's put it this way. Even if the votes are in, it's very early. The polls close at 8. It's 8:04. We have what's the West place? Coast. Crawford Notch up in New Hampshire is reported. Our Fab Five. Tommy, your Fab Five teams in the NFL. after one game.
This could be changing on a weekly basis, Boom, but from what I saw yesterday, you look at the Baltimore Ravens, they're my number 5 team, a tremendous start. The Seattle Seahawks look like they have started right where they left off from last year. The Cincinnati Bengals with Carson Palmer, number 3, are going to be one of the best teams in this league. The Indianapolis Colts, who I think are too good at some point to not win a championship, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they are the world champions, at least until somebody beats them, they haven't lost a game since December the 4th. That's pretty good.
Oh, that's last year's champion. Can I get to my Fab 5?
Yes, go.
Let me get to my Fab 5, and I'm starting with Jacksonville because they did beat the Cowboys yesterday when Matt Jones showed up and he played well. And then I go to Pitt. They are the defending champs, so I put them forth. Cincy.
Let's go. 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, 100% reason to remember the name. 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, 100% reason to remember the name.
Welcome back to Monday Night Countdown. I'm Ed Werder at FedEx Field. Until now, I'd seen Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes and Jamie Foxx, but only now are we seeing Clinton Portis. It's a little more than 40 minutes before kickoff. Al Saunders, the offensive coordinator, told me he doesn't know what to expect from Portis. He said they want to start Liddell Betts, going to try to establish him in the running game and work Portis in. He says, I don't know. He goes out there and he feels pain in that shoulder. He's coming out for the rest of the night. He could play 3 quarters. Boomer Mark Brunell, the starting quarterback, told me he doesn't expect a lot out of Clinton Portis tonight.
All right, Ed, thank you. And the big roar you hear right now is Clinton Portis indeed coming out of the tunnel. And so, fellas, Clinton Portis, obviously a focal point tonight. And Mike, looks like he's ready to roll.
Yeah, like I said earlier, Boom, I talked to the doctor that he brought in from Denver, Dr. Patanzi, and he said Clinton Portis feels great. He said he worked with Clinton Portis for the last couple of days, and he's near 100%. He has all the range in his shoulder. Look for him to play tonight. I was a bit surprised. He said not only play, but really be effective. So it'll be interesting to see how much Clinton Portis worked in tonight.
Well, Brad Johnson's been a lot of places, been here, but right now he's in Minnesota. Oh, by the way, he has won a Super Bowl. So Brad Johnson, Steve, I think the best thing about him, he knows who he is and he knows who he isn't.
And that's what I love about Brad. Steady Eddie, we'll call him. I mean, we talk about the capabilities of Brad. He's very firm. He knows what he's going to do. This is why you love this spot for Brad Johnson. Opening day and playoff football. Those are the kind of things he's going to bring great stability to this Viking team. They've needed it for a long time. And I think at that position, Brad brings exactly what you want for this Viking club.
Well, across the way is Mark Brunell, who when he's good, he's very good. Remember, a couple years ago was a real struggle, Tom.
You know, Mark Brunell can be outstanding, but what we've seen this preseason is him struggling with the timing of his receivers, and he's beginning, you know, a lot of quarterbacks age a little quicker than others. It looks like Mark Brunell is starting to show a little bit of that age, but again, that was preseason. This is regular season. Let's not put too much into what he did until the games counted.
For the Vikings, a guy with, well, low mileage, that's the best way to put it, is Chester Taylor. I mean, came from Baltimore. When he got in there, looked pretty good, but of course with Jamal Lewis, you're not going to play very much. He's being asked to carry the load for the Vikings guy. Is he a big player this year?
Well, I think you can only be as good as a running back as the people are around you. And I think that Brad Childress has really made it a point to put some good people around him. He's got a good blocking fullback. He's got the offensive line. He's got a quarterback that's not going to make mistakes. He ought to have success, Boom.
Deep ball, Santana Moss. Mike, I forget where he went to school, but he's obviously a factor at any time in this game or any game for the Skins.
And let's be real here. If this football team is going anywhere, it will be riding the shoulders of Clinton Portis, who I talked about earlier, and this guy right here, Santana Moss. Both are from the U. They will ride these guys. This man is a phenomenal guy. Like I said, he has the ability to get deep using his speed, but he's so explosive, so quick to get him the ball and watch him do what he does with a football.
Well, and the 3 wideouts that we expect to see that we didn't see all summer. Of course, here's one of the other ones, the big Super Bowl acquisition from the Steelers, Antoine Randall, which should be intriguing in the game plan. Steve, you can use him so many ways.
Yeah, but it is surprising to me, too, Boom, because even when they Vincent Randall is a lot like Santana Moss, so you're getting the same thing. He's a small guy, a fast guy, but he will make plays.
You know, this new rule where you can't push off, the officials are being really tight with that call. It's ridiculous, but what's happening is these smaller receivers, quick receivers, are getting back in vogue. It's not that big physical receiver anymore because he's going to get called for those push-offs. So I think Washington's put themselves in a nice little spot here with both of these guys.
All right, so there's just some of the big names to watch for tonight. And that knows about being a big name on a Monday night or on a Sunday day or whenever it was, that will be Michael. Yep. Why not call his segment a Monday Night Countdown the Playmakers, right? Why not?
That's a good thing, Boom. And since this is the anniversary of 9/11, as a nation, we overcame so much. I wanted to stick with that theme with my playmakers. These are guys that have overcome some stuff. And I want to start with my number 5 playmaker. And we'll have fun while we're doing it, guys. No disrespect. Number 5 playmaker is Reggie Bush. He overcame not being the number 1 pick in the draft.
My Monday Night Football thing was a one-year deal that's turned into nearly 2 decades and an American signature.
It's going to be a really interesting thing when you get all these musicians and all these different styles together and put them in behind that thing that Hank has been doing so well for so many years. I can't imagine Monday Night Football without hearing Hank say great football.
Just to have all these guys in this thing, it's just crazy. It's nuts. I love it.
It's pretty good representation. You know, a little alternative, a little funk, a little rock, a little country. You know, it's cool.
It's come from the same kind of energy, and I think that's what's really making it feel good.
Music is a universal language, and there's all nations of people, all different genres of people, there's different genres of music.
I think it's fantastic. It's full of life, and it's full of energy, and it's going to let you know that it's time for football. Come on. Are you ready? Are you ready for some football?
Here we are. Are you ready for some football on ESPN?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Certainly will be fun to see and watch. Let's end it upstairs to 3 guys certainly ready for some football. Mike, Joe, and Tony with more on tonight's game. Guys?
Thank you, Chris. Great to have you guys here with us. Wonderful atmosphere. We've dragged Joe off the field. He was visiting with Tom Cruise and family. It's nice of you to join us, Joe.
Thank you.
All the hubbub of opening night is so exciting. And, guys, as we watched games yesterday, you wanted to see those familiar faces in their new places, how they were going to do. Washington has some very significant additions to this team that really could change the entire context of their offense.
Well, they really wanted to try and add some different explosive power to their offense. What they did is they went out and got Brandon Lloyd from San Francisco, and then really got what I think is the caveat for them, Antoine Randall. Not only will he give them the ability to be able to catch balls as a part of this offense, but he's going to give them an explosiveness returning punts that only the Pittsburgh Steelers could really appreciate, and now the Redskins fans are going to have that opportunity.
Yeah, they got all these great players, and they got a 700-page playbook, and you'd have thought that one of those plays would have worked in the preseason, but it didn't.
A lot of people here are so hung up on the preseason. There's more first-quarter drama than you normally have for the Redskins. Meantime, Minnesota, when you talk about the players they added, it's not a guy you go, wow, I've got to get him in my fantasy league. I can't wait to see him. But it could signal a change in the whole Vikings tone of offense.
It has to. The Vikings want to be able to run the football. They're going to have to be able to run the football. So they went and got Tony Richardson from Kansas City, and you get Chester Taylor from the Baltimore Ravens, who was like a career backup. But the guy that you say is the marquee player, Steve Hutchinson, $49 million for a guard. I'll tell you something. If there's a guard that's worth $49 million, it's going to be Steve Hutchinson. He's truly a man beast. This guy dominates everything.
But what does that say about your team if your most famous guy is a guard and nobody knows what he looks like? You talked about fantasy before. The fantasy players you want, one's in Oakland and one's in Miami, Moss and Culpepper.
The stars are gone, but there may be more substance in this Vikings team. We'll see as it is unveiled here in about 40 minutes or so. Down to the field, update on the teams with our two sideline reporters. First, Susie is covering the Redskins. Susie?
Well, Mike, the much anticipated first appearance of Clinton Portis happened about 40 minutes before kick. He told me he's 101%, which was the number he was going for, and ready to play whatever role they want him to. Liddell Betts will get the start. He said he's going to play it by ear. He's still not sure how many reps he's going to get. Running backs coach Ernest Biner was most definitive. He said Betts will play till he gets tired, and then Portis will come in. And Al Saunders added he hopes once Portis gets in there, he doesn't want to come out. And now for a report on the Vikings, let's go over to Michelle Tafoya.
Well, Susie, FedEx Field, as you know, is the largest stadium in the NFL. It seats 91,704 fans. It is going to get loud in here tonight. So loud, in fact, that the Redskins practiced with manufactured crowd noise on Saturday. Now, the Vikings did not do that. However, they did work on a silent count in practice all week. Vikings quarterback Brad Johnson used to play for the Redskins from 1999 to 2000. He knows how loud these fans can get. But since he's been coming back as a visitor, there is one fan in particular he can hear loud and clear through the game. There's a guy who sits behind the visitors' bench and heckles Brad Johnson all game long. Johnson told me he won't acknowledge the guy during the game, but afterward he'll go share a laugh with the guy, shake his hand. So, Chris, never let it be said that heckling doesn't pay in the NFL.
Well, you're right, Michelle. Thank you very much. And, guys, you heard the fellows in the booth talk about it, about the preseason here in Washington. I mean, we talked about 0-4. Pittsburgh is 0-4. They won a game, but still, should this be a big, how much stock do we put in the fact that the Redskins looked bad 0-4?
Well, boom, it wasn't that they went 0-4. It's how they went 0-4 when you talk about what Dan Snyder did. He opened up his pocketbook to make an offense look great. He brought in Al Saunders and paid him a couple $1 million as an offensive coordinator. And then he brought in Antoine Randall and Brandon Lord to make this a high-powered offense. And Al Saunders never opened up their playbook. And that's what Dan Snyder wanted to see. We wanted to see. We wanted to see something. I don't care that you don't want to show the other team, but you should want to see something yourself.
Michael, I agree, because you will hear people say that the preseason does not count, but there are certain things that all coaches want to see. We want to see how our offense looks in the red zone. They were never in the red zone. We want to see how we look in a 2-minute drill when we close. They were never close. So those things indicate to me that it wasn't a struggle built out of the fact that we want to hide things from other teams. It was a struggle built out of the fact that we don't have an offense that works cohesively, and I think that's going to be a big question mark tonight against the Vikings.
Well, let's not say the preseason is meaningless, but let's also make a case for when you lose your big stud, Clinton Portis, in the preseason. This is a veteran team. They know the preseason is about just getting ready for the regular season. The last thing you can do is get hurt and actually miss regular season time. So I think once he got hurt, the organization and the veteran players say, hey, hold it. August, let's get through it. Let's figure out a way to get to September. And when we hit September, we'll show everybody what's going on Monday night. So here we are Monday night. These players recognize we have a lot to answer for, but we can do it in the first drive. You have a first big drive, you go down and score a touchdown, and preseason does become meaningless.
You know what? I just have a feeling we're going to see many pages of that playbook tonight.
Absolutely, boom. Nothing left.
And quickly. Very quickly. It's going to be a quick read. We're going to very quickly go through chapters 1 and 2 and get to chapter 8 and 9. All right, Brad Johnson and the Vikings. They have their work cut out for them. They're in Washington. We'll be back.
Football on ESPN.
You know what I like about tennis are the rankings. I like to know exactly where you stand at all times.
Yeah, it works for us.
Yeah. Hey, if they rank SportsCenter anchors, where do you think I'd be ranked?
I don't know.
Come on.
Monday Night Countdown. I'm Sal Palantonio at FedEx Field. Big news from the Vikings sideline. Free safety Dwight Smith, one of the best free safeties in the business, has been deactivated from this game. He is not injured. I'm told it stems from an incident happened August 26 when Smith was arrested for indecent conduct. When I talked to Vice President of Football Operations, Rick Spielman, he told me that Brad Childress is trying to instill a culture of accountability on this team, and nobody is above the law. So Smith is out, and rookie Greg Blue will start in his place, Boomer.
Hey, Sal, thank you. Chris, you reported it early, and that's indeed big news. Now, tonight's first game of our doubleheader pits two of the four oldest starting quarterbacks in the league. The elder statesman Brad Johnson, who is 2 days away from his 38th birthday, and Mark Brunell, who is less than a week away from being 36 years of age. Brad Johnson was the Vikings' 9th round pick back in 1992. That's actually when the draft went 9 rounds. Now it's 7 since then. Brad made regular season starts for 6 different head coaches and has a winning record with every one of those teams, and that's an NFL record. Oh, by the way, he won a Super Bowl with John Gruden and the Bucs. As for Brunell, he was born 4 days before the first ever Monday night broadcast in 1970. Now, Brad Johnson and Mark Brunell in their own words.
I'm Mark Brunell, quarterback for the Washington Redskins. 35 years old, and I'm turning 36 on Sunday. But I'm not nearly as old as Brad is.
My name is Brad Johnson, quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. I'm 37 years old. I'll turn 38 on Wednesday.
Oh, he's old.
I'm definitely proud of being the oldest quarterback in the league.
I think he started in Minnesota. Wasn't he Tarkenton's backup at one point? Yeah, I think that's what happened.
The unique stat on Mark and I is that the only 2 quarterbacks that have led the Washington Redskins to the playoffs since 1992. I did 99 and he did last year.
What do I have that Brad doesn't have? Probably good looks, you know. I'm much better looking than Brad is, no question.
I'm probably a little more nimble. No.
I am a lefty, and I can do nothing righty, basically.
I am 3 for 4 throwing balls with my left hand in the game, so everyone gets on to us about our age, but the way Mark plays, and definitely the way I play, I plan on playing another 3 or 4 years for sure.
You know, I'm the oldest guy on the team this year, and so I'm adjusting to that. Attitude's important. You know, when things are going bad, you just keep fighting, stay positive, and things will work out.
My journey's been tough. I was probably late blooming as far as football goes. And as long as I have the respect of my teammates and coaches, I'm happy. And I love right where I'm at right now. I just love playing the game.
There are 2 guys that certainly know their way around the ballpark. That's understated. Which quarterback do you like tonight?
Well, you know, they're both they're veterans, they're solid players, but Brad Johnson is Mr. Solid. He's going to give you 15 for 25 tonight, 200 and some odd yards, a touchdown or 2, probably some little interceptions. The thing I'm worried about Mark Brunell is at the end of last year, he faded physically, and he did not have a great preseason. I'm very interested to see how Mark Brunell starts this game.
And I like Brad Johnson, too, but only because of what I watched from the Washington Redskins in the preseason. If I had seen any of this great playbook that Al Sanders had, I would be tempted to go with the Washington Redskins because they have more talent on offense. But now, Clint Porter's playing tonight. That may change a lot of things.
He didn't ask you about the Washington Redskins. He asked you about the quarterback. I'm going with Brad Johnson because he represents consistency. And I think whether you're a coach or a quarterback or the offensive line or running back, you're looking for something that you can depend on when the game starts. No quarterback's been more dependable in terms of consistency than Brad Johnson.
Now we'll see. The guys, as we said, there's Brad, there's Mark Brunell as we get set for some football. 94,000 expected. 94,000 people that all be here tonight at FedEx Field as we get set for a Monday Night Football debut on ESPN. When we come back, Tommy gets us jacked up with his biggest hits from the week that was. Stay with us.
Monday Night Countdown is delivered by UPS.
The opening Monday night of the season, and the biggest stars are Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes. Hey, their future is so bright, they got to wear shades. So, they're ready ready for football. And, of course, this past weekend, we all were ready for some football. And, Tom, if it's Monday Night Countdown, that means it's time for some hits, and some hits in which no one was flagged, nobody was hurt, clean football hits.
Nobody got flagged, nobody got hurt, but certainly a few people are going to get jacked up. And when we look at this, we're going to start out with number 5. When we get to that, it's going to be the 49ers and the Cardinals. Eric Johnson is going to run a nice route here, going to get the ball, and he's going to be drilled by Eric Green. I call it the Battle of the Erics. You take a look at a couple of replays. Eric Green hitting him right between the numbers, and he goes over and tells all of his teammates that Eric Johnson got jacked up. Then we go number 4, the Ravens and the Buccaneers. Bart Scott, linebacker, had a tremendous day down in Tampa, Florida. Cadillac Williams has a couple of flats after Bart Scott hits him. And again, Bart Scott goes and tells his teammates the Cadillac got jacked up. Number 3, the Jets and the Titans. Chad Bennington, get out of the way. That's Cortland Finnegan, get out of the way. I said, get out of the way, get out of the way, get out of the way. He didn't get out of the way. And Chad Bennington ended up getting jacked up. Edwin James from the U runs right. Marcus Douglas levels him. Take a look at this from the line of scrimmage and see what you see. I know you hate to see this happen to a guy from the U, but Edwin James got jacked up. And number 1 on our hit list, the Ravens and the Buccaneers. Chris Sims and Michael Pittman and Ray Lewis from the U ends up making the hit of the day. Michael Pittman, get out of the way because you got jacked up.
Wait, 8 months since you've done it. Were you frothing at the mouth, Tom?
That's right.
We should remind people, Tiny Tom Jackson, linebacker with the Orange Crush of the Denver Broncos for 14 years, 6 less than our 20 years. Laid a few people out in his day. Hopefully, for your sake, there were a few Raiders. When we return, let's not forget what day this is. Flags aplenty here at FedEx Field. We'll be back.
September 12, and on this day in 2000, New York Yankees troubled star Darryl Strawberry found himself with more problems. The 38-year-old outfielder, who at the time was suspended and on probation, was found guilty of driving under the influence of medication and leaving the scene of an accident. He was sentenced to 2 years house arrest, meaning he can only leave home to go to work or to the doctor. Also on this day, former Indian cricket captain...
Round 2 for you. And in part by NFL.com. Log on and watch all the highlights from every NFL game this season. It's all on NFL.com.
Welcome back to Washington, minutes away from the Vikes and Skins, but now to the public address announcer, Mark Kessler, for player introductions and our national anthem.
Celebrated heroes, and they're called a public service. Operation FedEx Special Delivery was created to allow people an opportunity to publicly honor these outstanding men and women who give unselfishly throughout the year. Please raise your flags in a salute to the heroes of our country that make it great. Ladies and gentlemen, today marks the 5th anniversary of the tragic events that shook the world on September 11, 2001. We ask you to please rise as we pause for a moment of silence, honoring the memories of those who were lost on that day. Please remain standing as we present our nation's colors and welcome our public safety heroes that played an important and essential duty on that day and every day of the year. Representing all police departments, please welcome the Pentagon Police Department. Representing all the fire departments, please welcome the Arlington County Fire Department. Representing all the EMS units are the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Department. And representing our nation's armed forces, please welcome the Joint Military Honor Guard. And to honor America, the Military Joint Forces Chorus, consisting of lead vocalists from all 5 military branches, will now perform our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, sailors, the star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Well done indeed.
And so that's the background for the opening of Monday Night Football with the Minnesota Vikings and the Washington Redskins. Of course, the second game on the West Coast, San Diego and Oakland. So now, our lead pipe live. All right? On Monday night, what are we going to pick? First game, Minnesota at Washington, right here. Who wants to lead off?
I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings. I just think that they had such a good year last year. They're going to be a great, well-coached team with Brad Childress. I'm just picking the Vikings.
I'm going with the Washington Redskins. I mean, when I'm sitting here and right here in this atmosphere and all of this that is going on at Clinton Portis playing, it'd be an added boost to this football team. No way that football team, the Washington Redskins, will not show up and play right now.
So you switched your pick. I thought you had the Vikings.
I was thinking about going with the Vikings earlier in the meetings, but I'm going with the Redskins that came out of my
because
mouth.
I made such a strong argument for the Redskins. This is a talented football team. They are going to be in great shape throughout the season. I think they're going to have a great season. They had a horrible preseason, but a couple of nice drives, erases all that. I picked Washington not only today, but I expect them to have a better than 500 season, which is more than you can say around here.
You know, we've heard a couple of names of the new acquisitions, and that would be Steve Hutchinson, and that would be Tony Richardson, the fullback. But a guy who's kind of like an acquisition, Matt Burke, the All-Pro center from Harvard. So I love the blocking up the middle. I'm picking the upset. Minnesota 20, Washington 17. Gotta have too many guys from the U. We got a guy from Barrett. Now, the second game, San Diego at Oakland. Tom, let's start with you.
I'm taking the San Diego Chargers. I actually agree with Randy Moss when he says things are crazy around the Oakland Raiders. I agree. I'm taking the San Diego Chargers.
I'm taking the San Diego Chargers because I watched that Randy Moss interview, and he said everything was crazy. He said it was crazy because they're going to meetings on time. They're practicing very hard. If you think that is crazy, I'm not going with you.
Do you realize that we're picking a rookie quarterback on the first-time starter on the road in Oakland in the black hole, and we're all picking San Diego? That tells you that there's a lot of mismatches on that Oakland sideline, and I I think it's going to show up tonight. I'm thinking the Chargers.
Yeah, too much LT. He throws touchdown passes against the Raiders, too. He's always had big games against them. 27-14. I'm going to go with San Diego, the Lightning Bolts, over the Oakland Raiders, and a nice performance from Phillip Rivers. Well, we should say that it is a treat for all of us to be here, and we're going to be with you every Monday night before kickoff as ESPN begins our run with Monday Night Football, the first ever doubleheader. We're proud to present it to you. Tom Jackson, Michael Irvin, Steve Young, and a cast of thousands. Welcome to Monday Night Football. Welcome to Washington. I'm Chris Berman. See you at the half.
It's an unprecedented night of the NFL on ESPN from here in Washington and Oakland, California, a Monday Night Football doubleheader.
Let's go! We gotta go! Let's go, huh?
I said I'll be out in a second.
Come on, man. Everybody gets nervous.
You got 90 seconds. I know. We need that disc.
I feel like tonight's my night.
We have record crowds here at FedEx Field.
Have you been outside?
I know. It's crazy out there.
Five, pick up lost. What's your status?
I'll be there. The whole world is watching. Let's go!
Do you hear that? Do you hear that? They don't respect us. They hate us. What you gonna do about that? Huh? What you gonna do about that?
We got one shot.
I got it.
LT approaching West Gate.
Tell me again.
No pressure.
We will represent this city.
Hold up. Listen, man. They cannot hide from us. This is our time. This is our moment.
You can do this.
Just one purpose.
Yeah. One goal.
It's here. Bring it in.
It's Monday Night Football. Let's go!
I'm ready for some football. Are you?
Washington. Redskin fever as rampant as ever. Wins and a playoff victory last year. They aspire to go higher here in 2006. Hi everyone, Mike Tirico, and welcome to the 37th season of Monday Night Football and the beginning of our new era, the first year of ESPN's Monday Night Football. I know I speak for all the women and men on our crew. It is our honor and privilege to carry forward what quite simply is the greatest tradition in television sports history. And it's a thrill to do it with my buddies up here, Joe Theismann and Tony Kornheiser. Now, you guys know this city so well. You've been a writer here, lived here for a quarter of a century. Joe, you quarterbacked Super Bowl 17 for the Redskins successfully, so you know what the Redskin buildup is like every July, every August, and now September. But that expectation level seems to be off the charts this year. Why?
Well, it is simply because they went to the second round of the playoffs a year ago. Now, all of a sudden, you add some wide receivers to the outside. You feel like it has to be better on the offensive side of the ball. But everything with this offense starts with one guy, Clinton Portis. He's the man that has to be able to play well. Weren't sure whether he was going to play tonight. He's going to play a lot of football for him, and he's healthy.
I'm not sure the most important person on offense is a player tonight, Joe. I think it's a new offensive coordinator. Al Saunders came over from Kansas City for over $2 million, and they said, you call the plays. He called every play in preseason. They got no points from the first-string offense. The guy on the hot seat tonight in Washington with his 700-page playbook is Al Saunders.
All right, on the other side, it's Minnesota. 9 wins, a great run, almost got into the playoffs at the end of last year. But in the last 18 months, I mean, everything's different. It's a new owner. It's a new quarterback. It's a new head coach. Even new uniforms for the Vikings. So what do we expect from Minnesota?
Well, first of all, the nice thing about Brad Childress, he inherits a football team that actually had a winning record. All the other 9 of the 10 coaches didn't have that luxury. So here's a guy who has to establish what he wants to do well. That's run the football. But he's not going to be able to do that unless Brad Johnson can stay standing. Protect Brad Johnson. That's going to be the key.
That's the easiest second guess in football. When Brad Childress was named the coach of the Minnesota Vikings, he had an incumbent quarterback, albeit an injured one, Dante Culpepper, a Pro Bowler. Culpepper started making noises about wanting to leave, and Childress accommodated him. Say, I'd rather roll with Brad Johnson. So if Brad Johnson isn't up to it, people will look at Childress and say, what were you thinking?
Are you second guessing already?
That's my job.
You set the tone. Michelle Tafoya and Susie Colbert are with us as well. The story of Brad Johnson's journey. He returns to his old home tonight. Brunell, a quarterback who's seen it all, but he's seen a lot of new this summer as well. 2001. Today, 5 years later, memorial services held there throughout the day. Reminders of the pain inflicted and the scars still present. As our attention turns to football, we continue our thoughts and prayers for those who lost on that day and the servicemen and women around the globe protecting Americans so we can enjoy the freedoms like this scene right here tonight. Opening night, 90,000 at FedEx Field. All season we're covered on both sidelines. Susie Colbert covering the Redskins tonight. First, Michelle Tafoya with the Vikings. Michelle.
Mike, in 15 NFL seasons, Brad Johnson has gone from Minnesota to Washington to Tampa Bay and back to Minnesota again. He has gone from backup to starter to injured to Pro Bowler to Super Bowl winner, back to backup and back to starter yet again. And he has loved every minute of the journey. He told me nothing's been handed to me on a silver platter. I have worked for every opportunity I've ever gotten. Well, tonight begins a new opportunity. He has a chance to help rebuild the team that drafted him in the 9th round 15 years ago. Now over to Susie Colbert with the Redskins.
Michelle, the headline for the Redskins is the unveiling of their new explosive offense. Fun for us, but when we asked Mark Brunell how he felt about learning a new offense in his 14th season at almost 36 years old, he said, it stinks. It's just the bulk. A 700-page playbook. He dedicated most of his off-season to pop quizzes to try to learn the plays. He half-joked that his wife was thinking of leaving him and he hadn't seen much of his kids. And after all of that, he said that tonight there is still some uncertainty as to how it will go. The one thing he does have is belief. Belief in a system that he knows can work. Mike, Al Saunders' offense has been #1 in the NFL the last 2 years.
Susie, speaking of one, only one thing left. The debut of Hank Williams and the all-star gathering of his rowdy friends. And then kickoff, all in 60 seconds.
You want game?
1, 2, 3, 4.
at FedEx Field. Hank sounding better than ever. 92,000 American flags. The coaches are set, and so are we. Derek Frost will kick it for the Vikings to Troy Williamson. Minnesota won the toss and will receive. Let the new era begin. Off we go with ESPN's Monday Night Football. Williamson lets it go into the end zone. A touchback for Vikings will start it at the 20-yard line. Brad Johnson out of Florida State turns 38 here in a couple of days. He is the oldest active offensive player in the National Football League. And as he takes the field, he'll wait for a moment as we had a Redskin injured right off the kickoff. So one of the Minnesota players came out at one of the Redskins would-be special teams tacklers, and immediately a Redskin on the deck. So that will delay the start of the game here momentarily. Talking about here.
Sometimes you wonder.
Starts to a season. Gosh.
And Mike, sometimes you wonder about a coin flip, how valuable it is and how important it is. For the Redskins to be able to put their defense out there, the most certain part of their football team has to feel good to them. Of course, the injury's not. But from a Redskin standpoint, you have to say to yourself, this is what we wanted, our defense on the field.
It appears to be Pearson Prelo, who was injured out of Virginia Tech, a backup safety who was in the plans to play some significant time in the secondary for Joe Gibbs' team tonight.
He was going to alternate with Adam Archuleta, who they acquired in the offseason. And Archuleta got a lot of work. Prelo was a guy down the stretch at the end of the year last year that continued to make big play after big play for this Redskin team.
So as they wait, Joe Gibbs watches certainly nervously. 15th season as the Redskins head coach, third year in the second era. Of course, he led the Skins to 3 Super Bowl titles with the 3 different starting quarterbacks. And now as he's come back, coming off that 10-win season last year with the expectations to go higher.
There were some people who said when he came back that the game had passed him by. And in the first season, the record wasn't all that good. But he won the last 5 games of the regular season last year to get into the playoffs and then won a playoff game. And I wouldn't think, Joe, that anybody would say that about Joe Gibbs now.
No, not at all.
Considering they can go find him in Canton if they need to.
If they need to.
Yeah.
Only active NFL head coach in the Hall of Fame. There's Archuleta, the free agent acquisition, and really just takes the steam out of the start of the season. Let's watch the right side of your picture, number 20, Prelo. It did not happen by virtue of contact. And his right leg has been immobilized, and he's being helped off the field. I mean, think about all the work you do all summer, all offseason.
You get to the first play,
and you don't get touched.
And it's a kickoff.
Oh.
It's a kickoff where you wind up getting yourself hurt.
A lot of guys are happy to get through camp and not get hurt. Anticipate a great season. On the first play, the guy goes down, and you'd have to think out for at least the game.
Well, look at the way he's walking, yeah.
The former 49er Bill and 4-year Redskin comes off. And now Johnson and the Vikings get their first snap of the season from the 20-yard line. And play action right away. Look long, comes back down complete to the 32 to Chester Taylor, a first down. Tight end Jermaine Wiggins introduces us to the Vikings offense.
Here's our starting offensive line, anchored by 4-time Pro Bowler Matt Burke, alongside Big Money Hutchinson and Big Mac. Our starting quarterbacks and wide receivers, 85 needs no introduction, but 15-year vet Brad the Bull Johnson, first-year starter Chester Taylor, and speedy wide receiver Troy Williamson.
Williamson was the 7th overall pick of the draft last year. Johnson looking to buy time, throws for Taylor. Chester can't bring it in. Penalty marker down, back near the line of scrimmage. The veteran, one of the better referees in the National Football League, Mike Carey, working the game here tonight.
Ineligible receiver downfield. Offense, number 78. The 5-yard penalty is still a first down.
Marcus Washington introduces us to the Redskins defense.
The D-line, these guys are special because they're a close-knit group.
They party together, eat together, run together. They don't sleep together because most of them are married. But linebackers, I'm a part of this group, and I love these guys. We're the same way, just a close-knit bunch. Our secondary, they're special because they're one of the hardest hitting secondaries in the NFL.
And two players missing for the Redskins in that secondary. Sean Springs out with the abdominal surgery. That's been since early August. And Ronaldo Wynn, former starter at defensive end, he's out tonight with his ankle injury. Chester Taylor takes it across the 30 into the 33-yard line for a first down. So Minnesota has just been poor running the ball over the last 4 years. They go in free agency and get Taylor, formerly of the Baltimore Ravens.
And I don't think it's a coincidence that he ran behind Steve Hutchinson, the other guy they went and got on the left side. Chester Taylor gives them a lot of versatility. And the other thing is, there's not a lot of wear and tear on his body. He's been a backup, so you're getting a guy with a lot of experience, not necessarily a player who's worn down.
Hutchinson, 76. All-Pro guard, Super Bowl starter with Seattle. Taylor heads that way again on the cutback. And he's dragged down. Warwick Holdman and Cornelius Griffin combine on the tackle.
I know if I paid $49 million for a guard and I was the running back, I'd make sure to run behind him every opportunity.
Well, the thing about Steve Hutchinson is it isn't all just him. It's going to have to be Bryant McKinney next to him. And a big plus, I think, for the Vikings is getting back Matt Burke, who missed all last year. He's had 4 surgeries since 2004. So they have a pretty good left side.
With Mewelde Moore in as the back. Johnson throws complete to Troy Williamson for the first down at the 45-yard line. So in the absence of Randy Moss or a game changer, who's the guy? It could be Williamson, who caught 24 balls his rookie season.
Comes in from the left side, just works in around the zone. The thing that makes Brad Johnson so special is his anticipation. As Williamson clears the defensive back, the ball's already gone. Very difficult for a defender to react when the ball's already out of the quarterback's hand.
Another play-action toss. Nobody open. Johnson throws it away.
This is exactly what Johnson told us the other day. And he talked about being in a crazy situation like a 3rd and 12. But in that situation, he said you always throw the ball away rather than get hurt on some big play. And he's willing to do that. Joe, not all quarterbacks are willing to take bad stats in order to throw a ball away, and he is.
Hey, that's how he won a Super Bowl. I believe 51 times in the year that he quarterbacked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he threw the ball away. They call that managing the game.
A lot of guys force it, though.
Absolutely.
Johnson, one of 6 active Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, gives it to Taylor. He gets it to the 48-yard line with a 3rd down coming up. Phillip Daniels and Carlos Rogers help make the stop for the Redskins. Of all the units we're seeing tonight, Minnesota's offense, new coordinator. Minnesota's defense, new coordinator. Redskin offense, you guys talked about at the beginning, new. Washington's defense is continuing what it did last year under Greg Williams. And Brad Childress and his offense, that's what they're going up against. Remember, Brad was in Philadelphia with the Eagles, so he knows all about going up against the Redskins, doing it twice a year in the division. Third and 7 for Williamson. Hauls it in. Troy Williamson to the 6 behind Mike Rumph. And Rumph is one of the guys in the game because of the injury to Sean Springs.
Mike Rumph just gets beat at the line of scrimmage. Troy Williamson, a year ago, was the guy that they said, look, just run down the field and go catch the ball. Well, he ran down the field for 46 yards and caught it. You don't need to protect a quarterback very long to throw these kinds of passes. Gets on top. Luckily gets caught from behind by Mike Rumph, or else it's a touchdown.
From the 7, Taylor goes to that left side. to squeeze through to about the 4-yard line. Lamar Marshall, the middle linebacker, made the tackle. Oh, Brad Johnson took over last year after Dante Culpepper injured his knee in late October. They were 2-5, struggling. Nothing was right. They were trying to find an offensive identity after Randy Moss was moved to Oakland. Well, Johnson became their identity because he took care of the ball.
Complete resuscitation of his career. He came to Minnesota thinking he'd back somebody up for 3 to 4 years.
Second and goal. Johnson throws incomplete. Saw everything covered. Just put it someplace where he could get rid of it. Philip Daniels' pressure as important on that incompletion as anything else.
The Redskins are going to have to get pressure with their 4 guys up front. That's Philip Daniels, Cornelius Griffin, Joe Salavea, and Andre Carter, a new acquisition. They're the guys that are going to have to get pressure on Brad Johnson because he's not going to hold the ball very long.
Owens in the game as they put a couple of tight ends in, and will run down here with Taylor to the end zone. Touchdown, Vikings.
Boy, that's going right at the heart of the line. You want to take 95,000 people out of a game in a heartbeat, you do what the Minnesota Vikings did. And why do you pay $49 million? Steve Hutchinson, left guard, just creating holes, knocking people out of the way. That's Adam Archuleta. He just buried.
You couldn't even find him when you saw Hutchinson. He was so much bigger than Archuleta.
New kicker Ryan Longwell, the all-time leading Green Bay Packers scorer. The snap is troubled. Kluwe, the punter, is the holder, and he runs for the goal line, but is stopped at the 1. He is learning how to be a holder for field goals. It is somewhat new to Kluwe and unable to convert there. Still a good opening drive. 10 plays and 80 yards. And the Vikings on the board. 6-0.
September is always a month to remember for sports fans around the world on ESPN. The UEFA Champions League begins the quest for the ultimate prize of European football with match days 1 and 2. The hard-hitting action of American football gets the regular season underway with the NFL on ESPN. Racing fans can look forward to action from the top open-wheel drivers of the IndyCar Series. The PGA Tour continues showcasing the top golfers of the world. You have to know when to hold them and when to fold them. Sitting with the high rollers of the 2006 World Series of Poker. ESPN goes to Italy to showcase some of the great clubs and traditions of Italian football. And Spanish football returns to ESPN for another great season of the Stars. It's great sports this September on ESPN.
Good round for Frazier. I am the key to the world. It's all over.
Few heavyweight champions have been disposed of with such brutality as when Joe Frazier defended his title in the heat of Jamaica against George Foreman. Down 3 times in round 1, Frazier was in big trouble at the start of round 2. Lifted fully off the floor by the force of a Foreman punch, the referee steps in to end Frazier's reign as champion and to declare a new holder of the heavyweight crown.
Major League Baseball on ESPN, Thursday from Detroit.
Chester Taylor runs it in 6-0 Minnesota. Not 7 because of the botch snap.
Because I'm a big believer in letting quarterbacks be holders. The snap is perfect. You've got a guy who's learning on the job. This is not the place to learn how to hold. You learn how to hold in high school or college. You don't learn to hold at this level if you haven't done it before.
Longwell to kick. James Thrash blocked Cartwright. Back for the Redskins. It is Cartwright from the 10. Brought down at the 25-yard line. So after the Jason Glenn tackle, Washington takes the field. And we'll see how soon we see Clinton Portis.
ESPN's Monday Night Football is brought to you by Southwest Airlines, proud sponsor of the NFL and official airline of Super Bowl 41. Southwest Airlines, a symbol of freedom. GMC, we are professional grade. IBM, what makes you special? And Walmart, always low prices, always.
as part of the remembrances of the 2001 terrorist attacks. Those were scenes from the Freedom Walk yesterday. More than 400 family members and friends of those who perished at the Pentagon 2001, plus thousands of citizens walking down the mall to the Pentagon for their remembrances.
Tony, here comes your answer to the $2 million offensive coordinator change.
You bring a guy in and you tell him to call the plays. You expect some fireworks pretty early on, considering there were none in preseason.
And executing them, the veteran Mark Brunell, drafted by Green Bay, starred in Jacksonville. High expectations this year in Washington. First down, first throw. Santana Moss in flight to the 48-yard line. Gain of 23. Nice block from Liddell Betts.
Didn't see that in preseason.
Did not. I'm pretty happy tonight because I've got Santana Moss in fantasy leagues playing tonight. So I feel pretty great about that first play, Joe.
Terrific job by the outside guys creating a lane. Now it became a punt return as soon as he cleared the line of scrimmage.
And as you heard on Monday Night Countdown before the game, Dwight Smith, the starting safety, is out for Minnesota, not injured, but deactivated, likely disciplinary reasons. Thus, you've got to watch what happens in the secondary for the Vikings. Brunell swings it out to Betts. The fifth-year back out of Iowa gets just a yard. John Jansen, the offensive lineman, introduces us to his Redskin teammates.
We'll start up front with Pro Bowl left tackle Chris Samuels. He's gone to 3 Pro Bowls. We'll move over to our right guard, Randy Thomas, probably one of the best right guards in football. Then we'll switch over to our playmakers. We got Mark Brunell going into his 14th year. That's right, 14 NFL seasons. We got Santana Moss coming off a terrific year in which he went to the Pro Bowl. And who could forget a great addition in Brandon Lloyd.
Acquired via trade from the 49ers. No Portis yet, but Betts jumps through the hole, crosses midfield. Well, third and about 5 coming up.
There's Al Saunders, brought in from Kansas City to call plays. Joe Gibbs in the Hall of Fame as an offensive guy not calling plays. Gave it over to Al Saunders. He said, Joe Gibbs said, for the good of the team. Paying this guy over $2 million. He's been very successful in Kansas City. But again, no points by the first team in the preseason. Though, Joe, I know you think preseason doesn't amount to much.
Doesn't mean anything.
Well, the Redskins in 4 snaps have shifted more here tonight than they have all preseason. Very vanilla through August. Third down throw is hauled in by Antoine Randall. His first catch as a Redskin for the first down against the defense led by Viking safety Darren Sharper.
Now introducing the new Viking Purple People Eater defense. Defensive line, you always have to be strong up the middle and have those guys that can come off the edge, and we definitely have that. Our linebackers, playmakers in themselves, guys who are in the proper position and know how to make plays. Secondary, guys that have a lot of experience, and we call ourselves a ball hawking secondary, and that's what makes us great.
Put it in the hands of Randall L., who caught the last one, now runs to the 35-yard line, a pickup of 5 on first down, and here's Michelle Tafoya.
You mentioned Mike Dwight Smith deactivated. This is a disciplinary move by Brad Childress going back to August 26th when Smith was cited for indecent conduct in a Minneapolis hotspot stairwell with a 26-year-old young woman. Now, it was, again, just a citation for indecent conduct, but this is part of Brad Childress's culture of accountability this he's instilling in Minnesota. He was going to draw the line right there, Mike.
And making a statement in a key spot here on opening night. 2nd and 6. Brunell steps up, takes off. Not the scrambler that took Jacksonville to 2 AFC championship games, but he still has enough wheels to get it done. First down.
That sideline, Michael, had to look like it was 4 miles away. So he just decided he was going to go so far. Play action, hole opens up, he takes off. That sideline looks like it's getting further and further away. Knows where he has to get to be able to get the first down. Now, here's a guy who rushed 42 times last year for 111 yards, so he can run. He just got to be careful he doesn't pull something or a few things.
From the 30, Betts waits for the block, only gains a yard. SportsCenter 30 at 30 update. Here's Carl Ravitch.
Hi, Mike. Thank you. Last year, those Redskins knocked out of the playoffs by the Seahawks. Today, the Seahawks added a receiver. They acquired Deion Branch to hold off from the Patriots. Branch wasn't going to go back to New England. And now the Patriots have asked the league to look into tampering charges against the Jets as it pertains to Branch. Chiefs say they hope Trent Green out of the hospital Tuesday. A source close to Green says he'll likely be gone at least the next 2 games. He has a very, very severe concussion. SportsCenter follows the next game. Mike?
That's right, Carl. Doubleheader here tonight. We all send our best wishes to Trent as well. Jets on the toss. 8 of 5. We'll have 3rd and 5 coming up.
Let me go back to the point that was made about Dwight Smith sitting down for disciplinary reasons. There's a commitment to character, and it is spelled out in Minnesota. In the media guide, it says the Vikings move into the future with a focus on character. Grant Childress said, direct quote, "We want good people who are good players in that order." They were the most scandal-ridden team in the entire NFL last year. They had 2 more this year with Corin Robinson and Dwight Smith, and they're acting on Dwight Smith. It's a pretty courageous thing because you follow up what you say you believe in.
So Robinson, the receiver, has agreed to terms with the Green Bay Packers just within the last couple of hours. 3rd down, Brunell throws complete to Moss. 1st down at the 16.
Michael, when you watch Mark Brunell run this offense, you get a sense of this guy having been around and knows exactly where everything is. Here comes the blitz up the middle, gets it out of his hands very quickly. I know Susie talked about the ability of this guy to have to study so much and comprehend so much in his 14th year, but I think those 14 years of experience are really helping him.
Inside, Ray Edwards helping out on the tackle. You want some perspective on the explosive nature of Santana Moss, in addition to how you could just ride him for a while. He caught 84 balls, averaged 17.7 per catch. We haven't seen those kind of levels of number of catches and yards per catch, but twice in the league in the same season. Stanley Morgan and Jerry Rice, the incomparable Jerry Rice, 19 years ago. The hand from the Redskin fans. The debut of Clinton Portis with the injured left shoulder, alone in the backfield for 2nd down. Fans rising in anticipation that he'll get it. He does. Takes that first big hit. Hasn't taken one since the injury in the first preseason game for about 6 yards. It was a partial dislocation of the left shoulder. Happened on the 8th play of the preseason opener against Cincinnati, tackling Kewan Ratliff as the Bengals defensive back was making a return, and Portis was just so disgusted being in there in preseason and getting hurt so early in the preseason.
But he's come back medically at a state where they feel like that there are no medical limitations at this point. Coach Gibbs sat and talked to the doctors, talked to his medical staff, and physically they feel like he's ready to go.
3rd and 5, and Brunell needed to take a timeout. So the Washington starting offense in the red zone for the first time this year, because they didn't get there in the preseason.
The Champions Tour presents.
Tony, he is here, and you're welcome in the booth via email. Submit your questions for Tony, NFL.com or ESPN.com's Monday Night Surround. We will answer some of your questions.
Let's just try and make them funny.
No, we won't answer.
Let's try and make them funny.
We won't answer.
He will. I will answer.
We're just here listening to him.
Then I will turn to you and say, can you top this?
I'll tell you, the Redskins are trying to top what Minnesota did on their first drive.
Out of the Washington call timeout, this is 3rd and 5 with Portis in motion. 5 receivers to throw to. Portis has it, but he is shy of the first down. A nice hit by E.J. Henderson, a linebacker who was maligned last year, did a nice job in the preseason, and a field goal attempt coming for the Redskins.
Just a simple fact that Clinton Portis is going to take a hit is important because he's got to find out where he is. Now, he is wearing a harness. You see that wrap on his left shoulder? That's part of a harness around his left tricep there. That's part of a harness to help hold that shoulder in place. And they don't want it flying around.
If he doesn't know where he is, we're all in trouble because he's on the field.
27-yard field goal attempt for John Hall. Didn't look pretty, but bangs it through. And Washington responds to the 80-yard Minnesota drive with 66 yards and a field goal.
Their first fight was...
This is the first end of an unprecedented night on ESPN and in the NFL. A Monday Night Football doubleheader. The San Diego Chargers and the Oakland Raiders come up from Northern California. As soon as we're done, their battle in the AFC West. Whoever wins will be in first place in the AFC West after the results from yesterday. Brad Nessler, Ron Jaworski, Dick Vermeil, and Bonnie Bernstein have it for you right after we're done here in Washington.
The coach, Dick Vermeil.
It'll be fun to listen to Jaws and his old coach, Dick Vermeil, with Brad after this one. Derek Frost kickoff. Returned by Williamson. Takes it to the 25-yard line. Mike Sellers leading the special teams charge. Well, Brad Johnson, former Super Bowl winning quarterback, very steady on that opening drive. Hit some big passes, including one to Williamson, to set up the Viking touchdown. Opening quarter, opening night for the Vikings and the Redskins. 18th meeting between these teams. They didn't play last year. Did last game in 2004. Drive start from the 25. Chester Taylor scored the touchdown in the first drive. Gets 5 here. Marcus Washington takes him out of bounds.
We talk about Brad Johnson's ability to manage the game. He knows where everyone is, and he knows where trouble is. First thing he's going to do, he wants to go to the left with this ball. Doesn't have it. Nobody there. Everybody's covered. Let's come back and work the middle of the football field. No one's there. All right, now, I have no place to go with the football. Let me just get it away. I'll come back and try another down. 3 out of 5, 70 yards on that first drive. Troy Williamson with a couple of big plays in it.
Second and 5, the tight end Wiggins in motion, and there was movement with Artis Hicks, the right guard.
Ball start. Offense, number 79. 5 yards till second down.
Like Gary was stopping the clock and doing false start at once. But he smoothly moved the timeout into that. Well, what does Brad Johnson do in addition to making those smart decisions? Complete passes. 10 seasons in a row, over 60%, an NFL record.
He's played for 6 different coaches. He's had a winning record for 6 different coaches.
And nobody keeps him.
You'd want to pick him up if he won for you, you'd think.
Second and 10, Taylor. It's to the 32-yard line.
Okay, here's what we have with Brad Johnson. He's drafted in the 9th round. They don't have 9 rounds anymore. All these guys drafted ahead of him, all of them out of football. David Klingler now at the Dallas Theological Seminary. Okay, Craig Erickson has a great job, yacht broker in Miami. I mean, better there than Omaha, obviously. One big score, you're set for the whole year. Bucky Richardson, water and waste treatment in Houston. You better keep your shoes on if you're in water and waste treatment, pal.
And Brad's still quarterbacking in the league. Third down throw complete to Jermaine Wiggins for the first down at the 38-yard line. Adam Archuleta made the tackle, but Wiggins, who caught 69 passes last year, keeps this drive alive as the quarter comes to an end. Vikings have converted all 4 of their third downs in the first quarter. Each team scored on its opening drive, 6-3 after 1. Beautiful night to open the Monday night season for these teams. Santana Moss had a big play as part of the Redskins' only drive of the quarter that led to a field goal. This is Minnesota's second drive. They lead it 6-3. Michelle Tafoya, Susie Colbert on the sidelines. Mike Tirico, Joe Theismann, Tony Kornheiser here in the booth on Monday Night Football.
Minnesota has been extremely impressive with an offense that is brand new. I don't think we can stress that enough. Brad Johnson and this entire offense, new fullback, new halfback, wide receivers, everything's new about this offense, and they've been very efficient.
Quarter starts with a first down. And Johnson goes right back to Wiggins, who put himself airborne. Sean Taylor separates him from the ball, and it goes out of bounds. It's a completion. Ball out of bounds. It's going to be marked back where it went out at the 41. Marcus Washington there as well.
Oh, boy. This is what a strong safety is supposed to do in support. Now, just to put in perspective, Wiggins is 260 pounds.
Why is he hurdling? Does he think this is a steeplechase? That's nuts.
Doesn't think it now.
That's the last time he'll do that. He's lucky that wasn't his head that came out, just the ball.
He's very close to being in control of the ball when his butt hit the ground, and then it spit out, but it's 4 yards here on second down in the second quarter. He wouldn't waste a challenge on that. Johnson flushed, and another throwaway. Susie Culber on the sideline.
Well, Mike, the Redskins defense, besides giving up an early touchdown, also took an early hit. Safety Pearson Preeler, who we saw go down on the opening kickoff, being called a right leg injury. He will not be back. In addition to receiving quite a bit of attention behind the bench, he was also consoled quite a bit. Imagine the disappointment of going out on the very first play of the season.
Devastation. The guy who was starting beside Sean Taylor. 3rd and 8. Pressure. It's picked up as Johnson goes deep for Williamson again, right through his arms. Williamson showed that extra burst with the ball in the air. Carlos Rogers defending. Minnesota punts.
Unbelievable throw.
Oh, right there.
Brad Johnson could not throw the football any better. They said they needed Troy Williamson to step up and be the guy to take them to another level. That would have been the next level.
Fluey, the former UCLA Bruin, to punt. Antoine Randall is an addition to this Redskins punt return unit that they hope will change field position.
5-yard penalty is still 4th down.
Well, now we want to see if Fluey can hold on to the snap for punting. We saw he couldn't hold on to it as the holder for place kick.
And I know what Redskins fans want to see.
I want to see Antoine Randall back returning punts. This is why the Redskins signed him.
Second-year kicker gets it away. 40 yards. Fair caught by Randall. It'll mark it just past the 25. Second series for the Redskins offense that Mark Brunell moved down the field okay. About 66 yards in that opening drive. The veteran back under center when you come back to Washington.
ESPN's Monday Night Football is brought to you by HDTV, powered by DLP. It's amazing. It's the mirrors. Men's Warehouse. You're going to like the way you look. The all-new Mazda CX-7, the SUV you never saw coming. And EA Sports Madden 2007, in stores now.
Our nation's capital, all the monuments and very memorable buildings, all seen in a different light tonight as you see the lights, the 184 points of light skyward from the west side of the Pentagon, where American Airlines Flight 77 crashed 5 years ago today. It's a day of conflicting emotions here in Washington for sure. The joy here and the pain reminder 15 miles away. Brunell, first down pass for Chris Cooley's incomplete. Ben Lieber was in coverage.
We talked about this before. Joe Gibbs giving up the play calling. He's in the Hall of Fame as an offensive guy. He told us the other day the only thing he ever did on defense was walk down to the defenders and say, stop him, stop him. And he's got 3 Super Bowl rings, and he gave up play calling, which is how he made his name for Al Saunders. And granted, Al Saunders is wonderful at this, but for Joe Gibbs to give up the play calling is, to me, a great act of humility to say he's better than I am. He's not in the Hall of Fame.
Extremely unselfish.
Liddell Betts back in the backfield. The quick toss to Moss. And Ben Lieber, the free agent acquisition for the Vikings, helped lead the charge over there defensively. We'll have third down coming up. Well, go back to that, Joe, because you were on the other end of that, quarterbacking for Joe Gibbs. Are you surprised to see no play sheet in Joe Gibbs' hands?
I am surprised and had a chance to talk to him about it, and I said, what's it like? He said it was different. It is different. He can manage the game now instead of just being focused totally on the offensive side of the ball. I think he recognized that he was away so long that he needed someone to come in and expand what they wanted to do on offense. He wants to win a world championship. That's why he brought Al Saunders in.
Brunel on third down, just throwing it away. With the pressure that came from Minnesota, the question is, as he was retreating there, was he still within the tackle box? There was not an eligible receiver over there. And Mike Carey says he was out of the box, so fourth down.
Just to get back to that point, Joe Gibbs is becoming more of a CEO. I mean, the analogy you'd use in college is almost to Bobby Bowden, who prowls the sidelines a little bit, but is not active in calling offense and calling defense.
But he will make the big decisions, whether to go for it, whether to punt, whether to fake a punt, all that stuff.
It's a Derek Frost punt, and not a very good one. Out of bounds at the 37. Frost, who was in some hot water as the preseason got started. They brought in another kicker just a week before the season to test him out. Only hits it 31 yards there. Good field position for the Vikings when you come back. Celebrities here tonight. Tom Cruise sitting in the owner's box of owner Daniel Snyder. They now have a business relationship after Paramount dumped Cruise.
Cruise signed on to do movies, and Dan Snyder will have something to do with that.
Katie Holmes is with him. Just wanted to let you know that.
Personal friend of yours?
Well, as of about a half hour ago.
When I talked to her before the game, she said, first down and a run. Sean Taylor, another big hit on Chester Taylor as he met him after the game of 6.
Offense number 78. 10-yard penalty. Still first down.
Matt Burke, the center from Harvard, back from injuries last year.
I think we have some animation here of Dan Snyder, the owner not just of the Redskins, but of Six Flags, you know, which is an amusement park all over the country, and his new hire, Tom Cruise. And we were thinking that maybe they could get in the ride business together, and maybe you could do a Mission Impossible ride, or maybe you could do a Top Gun ride. I think you'd stay away from a cocktail ride, or, you know, what was the other one? Rain Man. It would go too slow, wouldn't it?
It's good, Tony. I like that. Minnesota, after its fourth penalty of the game, the screen is deflected and incomplete, and it almost turned into a Warwick Holdman touchdown going the other way.
Demetric Evans is the guy that swatted that one up. The Redskins were unbelievable a year ago. 4% of all the passes thrown, they deflected. Here comes the rush. McKinney tries to cut him. Look at the great job he does playing off the tackle and then not getting a piece of the ball.
And, Joe, you talk about the deflections. Remember the playoff game, Chris Sims deflected a couple of times, turned into picks, and only the Bears deflected passes more than the Redskins did last year. Second and 20, back to Taylor. Nowhere to go. Philip Daniels off the defensive end makes it third and long.
Because if that was very important, deflecting passes, you'd go out and sign a couple of 7'5" guys, stick them in a uniform, say stand straight up and bat it away.
The problem is guys that big can't move with the agility of these defensive linemen at 6'3", 6'4", some of them 6'5".
Or you could hire a giraffe, put him in a uniform, and see if the quarterback could get it over his head.
On a down and distance like this, the Redskins cannot commit a holding penalty and give up a cheap first down.
Third and 18, Taylor coming for pressure. Sean's picked up. Johnson throws it deep. Incomplete. Carlos Rogers covering Marcus Robinson. Those of you tuning in just after 8 in the East, 7 in the Midwest, on this September 11th, 91,000 strong fans with flags and celebratory start after the emotional moment of silence. Clinton Portis, 2 plays, only 1 run. Brad Johnson led a nice opening drive for the Vikings that resulted in a touchdown. A missed extra point is the reason Minnesota has 6. Washington a field goal on its first drive. And now the exchange of punts. Randall L. waiting for this one. 36-yard kick. He came to get it. Made a man miss. Picked up a great block from Sean Taylor. And another great block. And Randall L. keeps the play alive. And is held just shy of midfield.
It's It's worth the price of admission. That one return tells you what it's all about.
And Sean Taylor and Carlos Rogers know I can throw big blocks to set my guy up. Rogers had the second one. Good return for Randall L. Just about 3 minutes into the second quarter. Minnesota 6, Washington 3. Clinton Portis back in the game. Crowd electrified by the blocks and that return on the punt by Randall L. to give Washington its best field position of the night. And on first down, here goes Portis to the left side. Chris Samuels couldn't get the block. He's going to lose a couple of yards. We mentioned Tom Cruise is here. It's a star-studded owner's box tonight.
That box has got a lot of money in it. I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, a lot of it's yours.
I'm going to go pander over there. It's a little money over there. Tom Cruise, Peter Berg.
Of course, this is Jamie Foxx, the Academy Award winner in 2004 for the movie Ray. In Any Given Sunday. So many movie credits. Why are you here tonight?
Thasman! I'm here for Thasman.
My buddy.
That's my buddy. For one, I'm huge fans of all of you guys, and I'm a huge sports fan. You know, we did the ESPYs and everything like that, and I was, talking to your owner, and everybody knows that I'm from Dallas and a Cowboy fan, but I love the Redskins and their spirit and trying to do out here tonight.
Zell Betts trying to make it
happen. And those days of Thanksgiving, seeing the Dallas Cowboys and the Redskins, and I'd like to thank the owner for letting me be a guest here. Just hanging out.
Where do you rate in the booth? Are you in the first row, the second row, the third row?
You know what?
Where are you?
I don't know. I see Cruz has the whole front row.
Yeah.
And you know that? I mean, I don't know.
Did he
Maybe I
ban
need to
you
bring
from
my Oscar.
Yeah, you've got
one.
Doesn't that get you in
I don't
anywhere?
know, but he looks good. He looks great. He looks great. So we're kind of like we're doing a tour. We're hitting everybody's booth. We just popping in people's booths and drinking beers.
How's the food?
How's the food? Food is good.
And each of the
food is good. It's natural. I had some of those crab cakes. You know, Maryland's known for the crab cakes, so it's good.
You get front row in this booth. It's 3rd and 6. Viking pressure picked up. Brunell's pass
great catch
by Randall L. right at the line. The mark will depend if it's a first down or not.
That's why Randall L. wanted to come here. He had places to go, but he felt like Al Saunders was going to give him a chance to contribute as a receiver. Only he contributed about 3 times a game when he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers on the offensive side of the ball. Knew he was a kick returner, got the chance here. We've seen him already get more balls tonight.
And that's your kind of guy, a high school quarterback. You were a high school quarterback,
high school quarterback, passed over 1,000 yards in Terrell, Texas, population 12,000. Where we do it down there in Texas. Friday night lights, come holler at us. Thasman! We used to do it down there.
As they get the ball set up here and check the spot for the first down. I want to ask you about Any Given Sunday, because we've had a terrific run of movies and sports movies, and you really go back to Any Given Sunday in '99. What kind of legacy did that movie leave for sports movies?
Well, I think what it did is raise the bar. Oliver Stone really wanted to do that movie as real as he could do it, and we were lucky by having real football players down there, from U-Niners to Lawrence Taylor, who actually played in the movie. And I had some experiences being quarterback in high school, so when you were shooting the movie, you didn't have to shoot to somebody's hands, to somebody's feet. He could actually hold it. We could actually throw the ball with LL and Bill Bellamy and Jim Brown on the set. So that's what really made it authentic. When you look at a sports movie, you want it to be authentic.
So what other sports movies have kind of changed the bar to make it more relevant?
I mean, I know it's been a lot of movies, but I go back to even like The Longest Yard, the first one. I go back to the movies that had not only the sports aspect of it, but the heart to it too. And that's a lot of it. When you can capture the heart of the film, that's what really makes everything fall in place.
You're boys with Tom. Well, we'll get to it after the play. Call the play, because we want to ask you about Tom Cruise, because you guys are boys from Collateral.
First down for the Redskins from the 41. And
get up.
Betts back in. No gain.
Okay. He won't come in here and talk to us.
Why?
No, he won't. So we want to know, how's he behaving in there?
TC, let me explain something to you. Tom Cruise is the most genuine person that you'll ever meet. And the guy is, like I always tell Tom sometimes, I say, you know what? Sometimes you're giving him too much, because all we want to do is just go to your movies and have a great time. And he's going through some things right now that is wonderful. He has a great daughter. He has his girl with him, and things are absolutely great for him. And that's all. You know, he's been through a lot of things, but I guarantee you he's going to be the man to look out for in the future.
2nd and 10. Brunell's throw for Chris Cooley, the tight end.
Got to air it out.
See, Joe, you got the Academy Award nomination for Collateral.
Yeah.
He didn't get squat for that. I'm surprised he talks to you at all.
But I guarantee you, he was the best. He was the reason that you have that. Because if you look at when he did the movie with what's the other guy he was with? Cuba Gooding. Yeah, that movie, the one that I didn't get cast in.
Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, Jerry Maguire.
Did you want that role?
But I was in that movie.
Of course, I wanted to.
Really? I was in that movie.
One you didn't
for
get
2
cast.
seconds, but I was
great. That was great. But
I'm sorry.
the thing about it, you have to have somebody like Tom Cruise, who's that superstar, in order for you to get that light. So I give him a lot of props for allowing me to allowing me to shine.
Third and 4. Betts has blockers.
That's gonna be a touchdown.
Liddell Betts. Took it to the 11-yard line. The ball came out.
Oh, but it's out of bounds.
It was, and it's a first down.
That's the versatility of the offense that Al Saunders brings. What we've seen is a lot of shifting. He runs and runs and runs. Now he crosses the back across the backfield and forces the Minnesota Vikings to chase. Crosses the back across. You get the big guy out front.
It's gonna be a touchdown.
Gain of 24. Let's watch to make sure he's out of bounds when the ball comes out. Ooh, it's very close.
Ball landed out of bounds.
Ball moved forward and out of bounds, was brought back to the spot of the fumble. Then after the ball was dead, unsportsmanlike conduct on the defense, number 97. Position to the goal, automatic. First down.
Spencer Johnson, after the ball is dead, takes it inside the 10.
You compound it by committing the unsportsmanlike conduct. After a big game like that, defensively, you go do something and give them more yardage, which only gets these fans more involved.
Yeah, and the fans are great here. Got to give a shout out to all the fans here. What is it, 94,000 people?
Yeah, just a few.
Yeah, that's a few fans. Theismann, I know you love playing. This is great. This is great out here, man.
It's a world I love, Danny.
Yeah,
just
man,
like I know how much you love yours.
Yeah, man, and being in Dallas and coming to see the fans here, that's what's great about it.
Next week, the Redskins go to Dallas.
I'm going to come see you down there. That's what makes football, man.
First and goal. Portis left side. Reading blocks.
And he gets
into the end zone. Touchdown, Washington Redskins.
It's a really big deal that Clinton Portis scored it, isn't it? Well, I mean, considering how quickly he went out in the preseason, how upset he was at everything that happened, to come back in a game where there was the notion that he would not play at all, to make that touchdown lifts everybody on that team because he's the most important guy on the offense.
John Hall to tack on the extra point. But because of the Vikings missed extra point earlier, the lead is for Clinton Portis, 50th NFL touchdown.
Wow. Clinton Portis has a second gear and a third gear. Look at how he gets behind Mike Sellers. We can talk about the running of the running back, but it's the guys up front that create it. The block that Mike Sellers made, just by lowering the shoulder, allows Clinton to turn the corner and get to the end zone. If he doesn't make that block, Clinton probably gets knocked out on the 2. Such power. And the nice thing about this offense, he struggled a couple of years ago when he came here because they changed the blocking up front. When Al Saunders came here, didn't do a lot with the running game. Put a lot of fancy stuff in the passing game, but kept the running game the same, and therefore allowed Clinton to just slowly continue to gradually get better and better into it.
I was ready to knock Al Saunders, of course, but now they're showing what they can do. He's got a 700-page playbook, which is thicker than the Gutenberg Bible, though not necessarily as historically significant.
How many pages do you think he's through now?
8. He's got 4 seasons to go with this.
Well, if I got a Portis, I'm going to run him. I got a Portis, man. I was down on the field meeting Portis. I mean, to see this guy up close, man, is a specimen. And I love the haircut, Portis. Keep it jiggy, baby.
That's a new one. That's a new look.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that tomorrow.
I don't know that you want to say specimen around football players all the time with all the testing they have to go through, Jay.
Hey, but you know what? They have to do it. I mean, you know, in order to keep the game respectful. I remember when Theismann playing and all these other guys played it, when they were playing it above board, and there was no, nobody, hankering with their bodies and stuff like that. So you really have to take a look at it in a serious way, because I look at the guys that played the game back at that time as real men and real players, and some of these guys, doing what they do, but you got to stay on them.
Derek Frost, very short kickoff. Troy Williamson looking for the corner. chased by Thrash, run out of bounds by Wright at the 40-yard line.
All right, Jamie, we want to bring you into this. Clinton Portis is unique. He dresses up differently all the time. Here's Southeast Jerome. We're going to ask you to pick the best one. Doctor, I don't know. Sheriff going to get you.
That's got to be it.
You think that's it?
That's got to be it.
Dollar bill?
Dollar bill.
How about Reverend going to change? These were all from last year. Kid Rose Sweets. You still sticking with what you got, Coach Janky Spanky?
I might have to go with the Reverend.
You think so?
I think the Reverend is the one.
That's some ideas.
The Reverend is the one.
That's some ideas for your next movie.
Oh, man, that's why next ESPYs whenever we do it.
God, I hope you do it.
Portis did that last year every Thursday when he met the media. They liked it. He kept doing it. It created a lot of fun. First down for Johnson. Brad is hit as he tried to step up. The ball is free, and the Vikings have recovered. It will be second down. Redskins thought they had it, but great pressure by Washington and Demetric Evans again.
When I talked to Greg Williams, the defensive coordinator of the Redskins, he said what we want to do is we want Brad Johnson to pull the ball down. He starts to go, pulls it down. As soon as he reloads, that's exactly what they're looking for because they know they can bring the pressure outside as well as up the middle. That's two big plays by Evans. He knocked down a screen pass. Now he manages to knock the ball out of Brad Johnson's hand.
Matt Burke was the guy on the spot. The center recovered the fumble. Second down, and Taylor is running right into the line, and he's stopped. Jamie, we'd love to have you up here. Thanks, sir.
Brother, thank
helping
you.
us kick it off here on ESPN's Monday Night Football.
Congratulations on the Academy Award for Ray.
Thank you, brother. That's been any time, son. We got 2 of these tomorrow, guys.
I'll be there,
you're there. And then we're going to go to Pootie's.
That's right. Me and you.
The Academy Award winner, Jamie Foxx. Thanks, man. Be well. And let us know how things are going in the box over there, will you?
Money. Tell Todd to come over. Oh, Dan Snyder will give you money. Tell him you're eligible. You'll get money.
Third down coming up. Redskins charged by this sellout crowd of almost 92,000. Johnson complete to Williamson, but did he hang on? Snyder says no, and he's correct. Fourth down.
Oh, boy. Brad Johnson gets the ball out of his hand long before Troy Williamson ever comes out of his break. Look at the perfect throw again.
That's 2 for him. That's 2 drops on 2 big passes. One that could have been a touchdown, and now this one, it's a first down.
Now, Dan Snyder's doing a little refereeing.
Kluwe, who's trying to kick it with hang time and directionally to limit the impact of Randall L. But Antoine's still been a punting factor. 36-yard kick, Randall L. from the 24. Spinorama took him out of bounds and a loss of 3. So the Redskins offense settling in here a little bit. Clinton Portis back on the field off a touchdown on the last drive to put Washington on top by 4. This is the first end of our Monday Night Football season opening doubleheader. Next stop, Oakland and the San Diego Chargers. We see Phillip Rivers finally take over the Chargers as quarterback after Drew Brees moved to New Orleans. With Adrian Tomlinson, Antonio Gates all on display against Randy Moss and the Raiders. Coming up, Game 2 of our Monday Night Football season opening doubleheader. Redskin drive starts from their own 25. Clinton Portis. Gain of 7.
Special teams big plays wasn't a part of the Redskins last year, but with the acquisition of Antoine Randall L., he gives you excitement, but he can't do it alone. That's Sean Taylor closing in to set a wall. I guess you could call that setting a wall. And Carlos Rogers coming in to absolutely set the other part of the wall. And then Antoine Randall L. gets the fans involved and gets everybody excited.
A lot of bricks in that wall, Joe.
Big bricks. A lot of headaches now.
Second and 3. Brunell back to Moss, this time off the defensive line. The Vikings' Erasmus James makes the play. James, the second-year man out of Wisconsin, 18th overall pick in the draft of 05. Lost a couple of yards. And just so you know, a couple of these Moss plays have been runs because they've been passes that went backwards.
The other thing, you take a look at the defensive line of the Minnesota Vikings. Kevin Williams at 3'11", Pat Williams at 3'17". They're 2 tackles. They're making them run sideline to sideline in this first half. Remember, it's the first game of the season. These guys haven't played a full game in 9 months.
3rd and 4. Vikings rush 3. Brunell is still flushed. Chased by Lieber and throws it away. So 3 and out for Brunell that time. Here's Susie.
Well, Mike, one of the things you can always count on with Mark Brunell is that he'll keep things light in the huddle. He exudes a confidence, but you had to wonder going into tonight. He talked about the uncertainty of this offense, and it's been a struggle for him to really try to absorb the whole thing. But Chris Cooley had dinner with him last night. Chris said, Mark, he really just wanted to get this game over with because there was so much surrounding it. Mark's biggest problem tonight, just calling the plays. Joe, you can relate to this. There's just so much verbiage.
Frost almost had it blocked. Turned to be a big kick, 49 yards. Mewelde Moore from the 20. A marker's down as Moore is brought down at the 30-yard line.
Susie, back to your point, the hardest thing for young quarterbacks to get out is the verbiage. You're right. But when it comes to a guy like Mark who can relate it to another system, it's just a question of sort of moving the X's and the O's around a little bit. As the game starts to go, as the season starts to go, they'll pare it down a little bit, get more comfortable.
During the return, holding, receiving team number 23, 10-yard penalty. They have the ball 1st and 10.
But getting back to verbiage, that was always your strong suit, wasn't it?
I could get get the verbiage out. I never stop sometimes.
Tony, it's still his strong suit.
That's what I think.
So the Vikings will start back at their own 18. You mentioned Brunell, Joe, and just a couple of points in the backup quarterback role for both teams. One thing that's helped Brunell and the rest of the Redskins offensively, Todd Collins came in from Kansas City as the backup quarterback. He's the number 2 quarterback tonight. The backup for Brad Johnson is the rookie Tavares Jackson, the 2nd-round pick out of Alabama State. Brooks Bollinger is their number 3 quarterback tonight. Taylor runs it. Chester takes it to the 30-yard line.
I just want to get back to verbiage for a second. When we sat with Joe Gibbs the other day, he told a story about you. He said that at the end of a quarterback's meeting, he made this terrible mistake and asked if you had anything to say. He said you went on for 15 minutes about strong safeties and free safeties and where you place the ball. And finally, Gibbs said, throw it here, throw it here, and throw it here. Do you understand? And by the way, no more quarterback meetings with you.
That was the last time he asked me that question. You're right.
Verbiage.
2nd and 8. Taylor about a yard there. 3rd down coming up. Andre Carter, the tackle. It was Joe leading Joe Gibbs' team to the Super Bowl 17 title, and then Doug Williams, Super Bowl 22 when the Redskins won in '87, and 4 years later, Mark Rippon in Minneapolis, leading Joe Gibbs to that 3rd Super Bowl title.
There you are, Joe. There you are.
Great honor having your name put up in this stadium. These people, these fans are absolutely phenomenal. I know every team would say that for their home fans, but you can just hear them here in this place. And what an advantage it is to be able to play at home here.
3rd and 7. Johnson throws. This time it is held onto for the 1st down by Williamson.
Good job by that offensive line.
Let's check the flag on that side.
They're going to call offensive pass interference.
Illegal formation, offense. Number 42 is not on the line of scrimmage. 5-yard penalty is still 3rd down.
This is the situation for Brad Childress, the head coach, also the guy that calls the plays. When you implement a new offense, we talked about verbiage and Mark Brunell just getting the words out, but then there's also young guys lining up where they belong. And that's the problem that happened here. Big 3rd down conversion for him. All of a sudden, it gets taken away.
Third and 12. Mewelde Moore is the running back. Redskins want timeout, and they got it. Something was amiss for Washington defensively. Carlos Rogers came over to the line judge to get the timeout. Washington 2nd. Let's go to the email bag. Tony with Al Saunders calling the O. Greg Williams running the deep. What does Joe Gibbs do, Sam, in North Carolina?
Well, that's sort of a problem. He wanders the sidelines. I've made him a deal to drive my bus to Jacksonville for the next game. You know, that may be what he's going to do.
Wanders the sidelines. No, he doesn't. He actually has some input.
He told us he wandered the sidelines.
I know, but he's involved in certain aspects. He checks on the kicking game, which he never had a chance to do. As you said, he wanders down to the defensive side and says, hey, stop him.
Stop.
He does that.
So you think he wouldn't drive the bus? Come on.
No, not with you. And not with you as a passenger. And one other thing, he is the team president as well. So especially in the offseason when all the installation of an offense would go in, Joe Gibbs spent a lot more time on personnel and other things related to this football franchise.
As the offense was implemented this year, Joe had a chance, Mike, you're absolutely right, to be able to go and sit with Daniel Snyder, to make the acquisition of Antoine Randall and a Brandon Lloyd, who we haven't seen yet, has also been added to the wide receiving core of the Redskins.
When the free agency window came open at midnight at 12:05 a.m., Randall L's phone rang. It was Joe Gibbs to talk to Antoine's wife about the schools and coming here to be a part of the Redskins family. Third and a dozen. Washington rushes 4. Johnson has time, but there's nobody open. It comes back to Wiggins, who's tackled in the open field by the middle linebacker, Lamar Marshall. Minnesota's offense is bogged down. Washington taking a timeout to preserve the clock at 2:28.
Even though it wasn't a first down, this is what an all-pro guard does. Look at Steve Hutchinson. Just absolutely nowhere to go. Evans is trying to get around him, get by him. Steve Hutchinson didn't give him 1 inch to be able to put pressure on Brad Johnson.
That was Washington's last timeout, but still 2:30 to go as the clock is reset. The 2-minute warning, so plenty of time, and the Redskins could get it in decent field position here.
2-minute warning acting as the 4th timeout for a team going into the end of a half or a ball game.
So Antoine Randall L., who last February in Detroit became the first wide receiver to throw a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl, can add so much to this team, and we all point to his ability to throw the ball, to run it, to pass, receive it. But this is the area I think he's going to have the biggest impact on this team.
The other impact that he has, Mike, is he's a heck of a guy in the locker room. He's always smiling. He's always having fun. He fits into the characters that the Redskins have on their team.
Second-year kicker, Chris Louis. This one returnable, 39 yards from the 41, Randall L. Upfield to the 45, return of 14. And Washington starts it in Minnesota territory. 9 minutes left, Super Bowl 40. Roethlisberger starts the play, gets it to Randall L., who throws to Hines Ward, 43 yards. Of course, Antoine Randall L., as you follow football, you know, a fabulous all-purpose quarterback at Indiana. Cam Cameron was his head coach there. He's come to the NFL as a receiver and gets the free agency deal to go from Pittsburgh here to Washington.
Antoine Randall L. throwing it, but Hines Ward sitting at home watching this game tonight, excited. Will we get a chance to see the world champs, the Pittsburgh Steelers, against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who had a big upset over the Dallas Cowboys yesterday?
That's next Monday night down in Jacksonville. Great chance for the Redskins to extend their lead here in the back end of the first half. Brunell with time for Santana Moss, who came from out of bounds to catch it at the 6-yard line.
They're going to call illegal contact. But when you go out of bounds and enter the field of play, you cannot be the first person to touch the ball.
That's the conversation, because he definitely was pushed out outside of the 5-yard zone. So there's an illegal contact issue to reconcile with that, Joe.
Illegal contact. Defense number 23 forced the receiver out of bounds. He came back inbounds, reestablished, made the catch, which was legal. That penalty is declined. The play results in a first down.
So it's a reestablishment when he's forced out of bounds that allows that kick or that catch to be good.
So that would be the exception to being the first person to touch the ball.
Right.
Because you were forced out illegally.
Right. If you ran out of your own accord and got back in.
And again, great points for me in fantasy football. Santana Moss,
Are you keeping
my
track
man.
on there? Are you keeping track?
Yes. I tried to get fantasy football players that would play on Monday night so I'd have a reason to stay up.
So you're going to do this all year?
I hope it doesn't bore you.
That's terrific. 2-minute warning. Washington first and goal at the 6, trying to add to a 4-point lead. Raiders, very active day in the NFL, including Super Bowl 39 MVP Deion Branch traded to the Seahawks by the Patriots. Chris has the details coming up on the Lexus halftime show. After the big play to Santana Moss, first and goal, Washington from the 6. Ward's fumble. The pressure from the tackles got to Brunell, but a very good job of awareness to fall back on it for Washington. Portis with that bad shoulder had to dive in to get it.
Watch the interior linemen just take off and go. Wonderful job. Just they fly in and disrupt. That's what they're there to do. That's Kevin Williams. What a horse he is. That's the job of that particular tackle in this defense, is to gain penetration.
Kevin Williams and Pat Williams, unrelated, but those defensive tackles, that's their job, to be disruptive. Remember, Washington out of timeouts, second and goal. And Brunell just throws it away for third down. Pressured by Erasmus James.
Redskins had the ball on the 44-yard line. Santana Moss is going to go down and run an out and up. What happens is Cedric Griffin, the rookie from Texas, second-round pick, he bites on it big time, knocks him out of bounds. He reestablishes himself, and that's very important. After he's knocked out of bounds, reestablishes position on the field, makes the catch, becomes a legal catch. Brandon Lloyd has been a guy who's been quiet in this offense, a new acquisition. You have to figure the Redskins are going to throw down here, and he's split out to the bottom of the screen.
Moss in motion, third and goal. Brunell fires. Moss couldn't hang on. Huge hit by Darren Sharper, the 3-time Pro Bowler.
Whoa. Darren Sharper learning how to play a little more patient. Santana Moss had it. Darren Sharper said that he had to learn a different style of defense because in the philosophy that they play, he couldn't gamble as much as he did last year.
Difference-making play by the Pro Bowler Sharper, leading to a John Hall field goal attempt. Good first time around from 27 yards. Same distance here. Nice job with a high snap by the punter, Derek Frost. And it's 13-7 Redskins. Moss appears to be okay.
We heard Brad Childress say the other day, in terms of his philosophy, he said you'd better be able to bloody someone's nose. He talked about the kind of toughness that maybe the Vikings had with Bud Grant. That would be a tough play, what Sharper just did to Moss.
Let's go down to the sideline and Michelle Tafoya.
Well, looking at Darren Sharper, he may need some extra TLC this week. For the last, all summer long, he's been wrapping himself up in a hyperbaric chamber. This is a portable hyperbaric chamber. He took it to camp with him. He spends about 2 to 2.5 hours a day in this thing. But he spoke with Terrell Owens, who does the same thing. Terrell will spend the night in this thing, so Sharper's thinking about doing that this week. He says it helps him heal faster, but at what expense, Tony? This thing cost him $15,000.
That's right, Michelle. 15 large for a plastic bag. You can go to any supermarket in America, get as many as you want for free. He spent $15,000 on it. Hope it helps him.
Well, the players...
Why don't you try?
The players talk about the hyperbaric chamber helping your recovery if you spend time in it for an injury situation. And now more players, especially affluent players, say, hey, here's a great opportunity to get myself healthier quicker because I'm an older player. And that's what the aid is. Nice return by Williamson. He got the corner. No flags behind it, and Williamson takes it to the 44-yard line. So Troy Williamson, who was tagged with the Randy replacement tag, because he was the first-round pick after Moss left. He has had a couple of drops in this game, balls that he should have held on to, but he's also made a big play on the touchdown drive and gives Minnesota a chance with 3 timeouts and 56 seconds left.
The Redskins gave their opponents an average starting position last year of the 32-yard line on kickoffs. They were horrific. They were the worst in football. And it still seems to be a problem for them covering kicks. Brad Johnson is a master at a 2-minute offense.
Well, he's got 56 seconds to do it.
And 3 timeouts.
And they begin with a run here with Miweldi Moore. Adam Archuleta comes up and hits him after a gain of 2. Vikings take a timeout. With 49 seconds left, Archuleta came over from St. Louis, the former first-round pick of the Rams. After 5 years there, signed a very rich contract for a safety, $30 million with a $10 million guarantee. And Tony, that's the story every summer with the Redskins.
Every year. They're the best team in the world in April and May. They look great. But at some point, with all the free agents, it hasn't worked out. We saw a statistic that from 1999 to 2004, they acquired 21 players who had been to the Pro Bowl before joining the Redskins. None made it as a Redskin. You know, they backed off from signing big-name free agents in the last 2 years because it didn't work. They were having fantasy teams on their own, and they were the Cubs instead of the Yankees. Steinbrenner spends money, wins championships. Snyder's money didn't pan out yet.
After the timeout, 2nd and 8, Vikings offense is stalled. That for Wiggins is incomplete. He wanted a flag on Marcus Washington, and one comes in after the protestation of Wiggins, and about 4 seconds after the play, I think he negotiated a defensive hold out of this.
Holding defense, number 53 before the pass. 5-yard penalty, automatic. First down.
You wonder what Joe Gibbs does on the sidelines? That's what he does. So what's the deal? The flag came like a week later.
So the penalty is the first on Gibbs' team here tonight.
See him hang on. Looked like a little bit of a hand fight going down, but who was pushing who?
No. In Redskin territory, Johnson back for Wiggins, who was able to wrestle it away and pick up the first down at the 35. Lamar Marshall almost had his mitts on it. Timeout, Minnesota.
Jermaine Wiggins was considered the pass-catching tight end of the 2 they had, Jim Kleinsasser being the other one. Had 69 receptions a year ago. And you think about this offense. What is he able to do? Tony Gonzalez, look at 04. Antonio Gates. Then Wiggins and Algie Crumpler. You're talking about some of the best tight ends in football, but yet Jermaine Wiggins doesn't get mentioned in that same breath.
That's the last guy you'd expect on this list. Now the question to you is, can he be that productive in this new offense?
This is an offense that accommodates the tight end. Yes, he can, absolutely.
Let's just make sure he doesn't try to hurdle people. He did earlier in the game. That will send him backwards.
Vikings 1 timeout. From here, a field goal will be 51 yards. Good job picking up the pressure. Johnson's deep throw is incomplete as Taylor and Rumpf went up for the ball together. 2 Miami Hurricanes meeting at the ball, looking for the pick.
Sean Taylor really doesn't care who he hits. I mean, it doesn't matter. If you're on the field, no matter what uniform you wear, he's going to go for the ball. He really is a phenom as an athlete. He could play wide receiver if they needed him to. He could go play corner. We see what he can do with his range as a safety, and we also saw what he can do when he wants to hit people.
Just stay out of his way is what you're saying.
And they try it deep again on 2nd down. And one more time incomplete. Uncatchable is the ruling with the contact with Rumpf and Williamson. It's a nice job by the official to immediately let everyone know why there's no flag coming.
I find the calls by Brad Childress, the offensive coordinator and head coach, the last 2 plays, a little unusual. They worked Jermaine Wiggins in the middle of the field. Now you come up, just because you ran by Rumpf 1 time, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to go by him a couple times.
They're going after the corner that they think is weak, that they were able to pick up it via a trade, the Redskins, from San Francisco. So if he wasn't good enough there and they acquired somebody else's discard, they're trying to pick on him here tonight.
And he's playing for Sean Springs, who won't be back for another couple weeks.
Quick toss hauled in by Williamson. Is inbounds and down to 28. Minnesota has a timeout. Now they're comfortably in Longwell's field goal range.
Well, it isn't Longwell that concerns you. It's the hold that has to concern you. Can Clooney get it down? He couldn't on the extra point that they missed before.
So Minnesota milks the clock down, so this field goal attempt will be the last play of the half. So we're going to have a 45-yard field goal attempt coming up to end the half from Ryan Longwell. Lexus halftime show is coming up. Chris Berman settling in for the reflections 5 years after the words 9/11 changed our lives. Preview of Game 2 of our Monday night doubleheader and the Deion Branch trade from the Patriots to Seattle, all coming up on the halftime report.
His big issue is he wants to be a holder, thinks only quarterbacks should be holders, doesn't like when punters are holders.
No, I don't.
It's been a rotating situation at kicker for the Vikings. They bring in the veteran from Green Bay from 46. And Longwell.
That operation went well.
Proves he's worth the 5 years, $10 million. Adds the field goal. And we get to halftime. The missed extra point, though, making it a 4-point game. Washington gets the ball to start the third quarter. They lead 13-9. Now let's join Chris Berman for the Lexus halftime show. Boom.
All right, Michael, thank you very much. And we hope everybody is enjoying Monday Night Football on ESPN. We sure love presenting it to you. And we're very proud to do so, especially on a night like this. Nobody will ever forget where they were 5 years ago today on 9/11. I mean, how could we?
Pretty terrific scene here in Washington to start the 2006 season for the Vikings and the Redskins. 13-9 as we start the third quarter. Remember, Game 2, the Chargers and Raiders follow us on this Monday Night Football doubleheader. Susie Colvin, Michelle Tafoya down on the sideline. Mike Tirico, Joe Theismann, Tony Kornheiser in the booth. You see all the key principles set for quarter 3. It's Darren Sharper and the Viking defense on the field first, as Clinton Portis and the Redskins will get the ball to start the third. The Vikings scored on the first and last drive of the half. Washington controlled the middle of the first 30 minutes. And Rock Cartwright takes the kickoff back from the 8. He plows into the line and gets to the 30-yard line. So you would think, guys, coming off that first half, both teams feel okay about what they saw after all the preseason. We don't know.
I would think from a Minnesota Vikings standpoint, you have to feel a little bit better than the Redskins. They got off to a slow start. Vikings have a lot of newness. New on offense, new on defense. They accounted themselves very well, except for a couple critical penalties that cost them some big yards.
I would think the Redskins would feel better than the Vikings since they are ahead in this game at the moment. You know, that would impress me. We'd be ahead, having not scored any points with the first team in 4 games. They just scored a bunch of points.
Drive starts from the 29. Could that be one of those where everybody but the center, remember this count?
Offense, number 66. 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Here's Susie Colbert.
Well, Mike, it's the unveiling of the new Redskins offense, and Joe Gibbs told me at halftime that overall he was satisfied. He pointed to a couple of missed opportunities. He called them freaky plays. He said the biggest thing he's concerned about is getting to the red zone and then not being able to capitalize. So far, 2 field goals and a touchdown. As for Mark Brunell, he said the way he's handling this offense is great, and Clinton Portis is holding up just fine. Just look for them to get into a better rhythm in the second half.
Okay, Susie, we'll see if the Vikings can sustain, which they didn't in the second and third drive. Brunell on 1st and 15 with everything covered. Sends it to the Viking bench.
Mike, Mark Brunell and Brad Johnson are 2 of the best guys when it comes to managing a game. They're just not going to throw the ball into places and have it picked off. We saw Brad Johnson throw the ball away in the first half. Now we see Mark Brunell in the second half doing exactly the same thing.
You know, both of these guys, Tony, they were never the prettiest car in the parking lot.
Absolutely.
You know, so people always thought, especially as their careers have gone on here past the 2000 mark, well, there's another guy who's our franchise guy, but they manage the game quarterback is in vogue in many places in the league. Liddell Betts gains 1.
Brad Johnson was a used car in a lot of parking lots. You know, Brunell, and even with a Super Bowl victory, he was a used car. Brunell had gotten hurt. I mean, he was almost a star in Jacksonville, wouldn't you say? Right on the verge of being a big star, then got hurt for a little while, came to Washington, and also became a used car in his first year when he was completely ineffective. Better last year, and high hopes for him now.
He lost the starting job to Patrick Ramsey in the middle of 2004, a 6-10 season. Last year, Ramsey started the first game. Brunell came in, never yielded the job, had the great Monday night week 2 at Dallas, rallying them for the win, and led them to the playoffs. He's flushed here. And his pass is incomplete. Fred Smoot, the former Redskin, covering Brandon Lloyd. But the credit there is the pressure from Napoleon Harris.
You have to like the job that Mike Tomlin, the defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings, is doing. This offense is doing a lot of movement. They're showing a lot of different looks, but yet he's still managing to get pressure on Mark Brunell.
Your theory, though, Joe, is that in the early games of the season, the defense is always ahead of the offense.
I think so. There's so, you know, they're less complex.
Nice kick by Frost. 50 yards. Mewelde Moore from the 24. Very patient, read the blocks, and Frost, the punter, brings him down at about the 45-yard line. So a very nice job by Mewelde Moore, who missed the last 3 preseason games. Only a 29-yard net on that punt because Moore returned it 21. You're right, that left side is what everybody's counting on. Johnson feels the pressure and throws as a marker down with contact here in the secondary. So this may work out for the Vikings.
They're going to hold holding on the defense of the Redskins.
Before the pass, holding, defense number 25. 5-yard penalty, automatic. First down.
That's Kenny Wright, and again, we keep bringing this up, but 25 Wright, 29 Mike Rumpf. They're up against it tonight because Sean Springs, the starting cornerback, is not here for Washington with his abdominal injury.
Sean Springs probably going to be out for maybe a week, possibly 2 more, before he's going to be ready to go.
So the holding flag, the automatic first down. Vikings in Washington territory, and they run left. And again, no room for...
Okay, but it's interesting here because Brad Childress said the other day, it's not how much you gain on a run, it's that you continue to attempt the run. The exact quote was, it's not the quality of the run, it's the quantity. It's not the quantity of the pass, it's the quality. So he wanted to commit to the run, even if he was only getting 2 and 3 yards at a shot.
And their new offensive coordinator, Darrell Bevel, was talking about that before the game on the field with me. He said, we may get the 1s and the 2s, but we're counting on the 4th quarter breaking the big run. Good job by Johnson hiding the ball. Again, Williamson deep with 3 defenders. It's broken up. Carlos Rogers in primary coverage. Archuleta joining the safeties back to break it up.
Brad Johnson has to consider himself very, very fortunate that this wasn't picked off by any of the 3 that were there. The ball winds up being underthrown. Carlos Rogers is just going to go up with the right hand. Watch from the right part of your screen. Troy Williamson down the middle of the field. Now Carlos Rogers goes up, swats the ball away, but if he doesn't, Sean Taylor is going to absolutely destroy Troy Williamson once again.
Billy McMullen, who was on the Eagles roster last year, is the 3rd receiver. Johnson, 3 of his last 11, hits this one to McMullen for the first down at the 25-yard line.
I'm so impressed with the way Brad Johnson gets the ball out of his hand. Catches it, looks to the right, now bang, right back to the middle. Right over Adam Archuleta's head, right inside the corner. I mean, knows exactly where the soft spot of the zones are. In front of Carlos Rogers, over Adam Archuleta.
Johnson keeping drives alive with those passes early in the game and now here in the 3rd quarter, aided by the holding penalty on 3rd down a few snaps ago. Left side again. Taylor again to the 20-yard line. I mean, you talk about the left side of this offensive line, and offensive line play is not the most sexy thing to talk about in football, but in Bryant McKinney and Steve Hutchinson, they've got $98 million in contract in 2 7-year deals of those guys over there. Now, we know with no guaranteed contracts, you don't often see the entire life of that deal. That's a lot of money and some big signing bonus, too.
They expect you to get more than 1.3 yards with people like that in front of you. They're pachyderms. Come on, run behind them.
In the 20, Taylor chased down by Warwick Holdman. The old Chicago Bear who played with Greg Blosh, who's now the defensive line coach here.
Now, go back to the fact that we were talking about before, Brad Johnson being underappreciated. He's the 40th paid quarterback in the National Football League. You've got offensive linemen that rank very high on a pay scale. You've got a quarterback, and tonight he just continues to show his value as being more than a guy who's the 40th paid.
So you got the two guys on the left side, the tackle and the guard, with deals that combine for $98 million, and the starting quarterback, who's a Super Bowl winner, working on a second year of a 4-year, $6 million deal. Pumping and throwing, the step is there for Marcus Robinson. Held on to it on the way down. Touchdown, Vikings.
Look at Brad Johnson, the way he's exulting after that. Hasn't made a mistake all night, has he?
Has not made a bad decision, has not made a bad throw. Everything has been perfect. Converted to third downs. This was a stop and go against Carlos Rogers on the left side. Pump, get it up in the air. I mean, the veteran savvy that he has, the quickness that he wants to get the ball up in the air is just phenomenal.
And laughing to see Travis Taylor, he felt like he knew that one was going to be brought in. Vikings go for the one to get it back to a field goal lead. And they add the extra point with Longwell. Johnson and Keith, third down pass to McMullen for 22 yards. 20 on the third down pass to Robinson. Vikings by 3.
Look at him.
Monday Night Football is brought to you by Coca-Cola. Football is best enjoyed fresh. Lexus and the new 303 horsepower GHS 350. NikeGridiron.com. Football is everything. And NFL.com. Log on and watch all the highlights from every NFL game this season. It's all on NFL.com.
I know both of you guys know that place. That's Old Epic Grill. It's right around the corner from the White House. The chefs are Redskins fans. Daniel Snyder loves eating there. So many people. If you're somebody in Washington, you've eaten there.
My daughter worked there.
Is that right?
Worked there for 2 years. It's part of the, here's the plug, it's part of the Clyde's group, and she works for Clyde's.
No, you can't do that.
I'm sorry.
Can't do that.
Now he'll eat for free again.
Rock Cartwright, another return from the 13. And he's taken out of bounds at the 33-yard line by Roniel Whitaker. Brad Johnson on the sideline. The communication's been very good with those receivers. Travis Taylor hasn't been involved in the mix, but Billy McMullen, a big catch. Marcus Robinson, the touchdown. Williamson earlier. The Vikings on the road on top by 3.
Introducing the intuitive new Camry, the car that reads the road. Toyota has redesigned and re-engineered Camry from the ground up. It's luxurious, sporty and practical, with technological sophistication at every level. Active braking with intelligence is standard across the range, while the Grande offers vehicle stability control with traction control, and also hands-free communication through the Bluetooth-compatible DVD satellite navigation system with voice and map guidance. Camry's headlights automatically activate when it's getting dark, and the Grande's rain-sensing wipers adapt for speed and rainfall. Designed for the driver in all of us. The internationally styled luxury interior is crafted with attention to detail. Camry's modern appearance and wide stance offers bold on-road presence. The intuitive new Camry, the car that reads the road.
Most of these drivers
drivers have the same training, the same experience, even the same horsepower. So what is it that separates one from the rest? Sometimes just 12 one-thousandths of a second. The Indy Racing Series on ESPN.
Major League Baseball on ESPN. Thursday from Detroit. One more time, the Rangers' lack of pitching became their Achilles heel, but they hope to make a difference in the playoff picture when they visit the Tigers. Rangers, Tigers, Thursday, live on ESPN.
This game, one of our Monday night doubleheader. Vikings 16-13 over Washington as Minnesota has scored 10 points in a row, and now the Redskins find themselves trailing as Mark Brunell starts this drive at the 34. Portis to the 49. Warren Winfield making the stop.
We've seen a lot of movement out of the Redskin offense. A lot of shifting, a lot of motion. But when you think about Al Saunders, the heart and soul of what he does is run the football. Priest Holmes in Kansas City. Larry Johnson in Kansas City, the yards that they put up.
Even Marshall Falk before that in St. Louis when Saunders was there with Mike Martz on Dick Vermeil's Super Bowl winning staff. Portis again across midfield to the 46, and here's Michelle Tafoya.
And Mike, a lot of people ask Brad Johnson what keeps him in football after all he's been through and at the age that he has. And he says it's that 30 seconds surrounding a touchdown pass, walking to the line, reading the defense, pulling the trigger, and completing the pass. He says that moment of scoring a touchdown is so euphoric, it's addictive. It's a fleeting moment, but he loves it. He said, those moments keep me going. They're going to have to force me out of this game.
Good for him.
And those words match that picture absolutely perfectly, Michelle. Brunell opening in the middle of the field to James Thrash. 30-yard line, Winfield to stop again.
One of the guys who was a big part of the Redskin offense over the past couple of years was Chris Cooley, their tight end. They've had one ball thrown to Chris Cooley tonight. He's had 71 receptions a year ago, but you see the wide receivers, including James Thrash, who really hasn't caught that many, only 14 a year ago, now involved in this offense. Different philosophy completely.
Mike Sellers, who never carries the ball, leads the way. Portis hits it hard to the 23. Portis has looked good with that left shoulder injury here tonight.
Yeah, you can talk about the wide receivers, and they're fine. You can talk about the passing. That guy, number 26, is the one who has to get it done for the Redskins. He's a great back, and they got to hand him the ball, and he's got to go down the field.
And that falls on the responsibility of that offensive line to be able to knock him off the ball. There they are, moving the world again.
They're essentially empty in the backfield. Randall L. comes in motion, takes the handoff. And he's a couple of yards shy of the first down at the 21-yard line. You know, Tony, you brought that Portis point. How's this for perspective? First 60 games, Eric Dickerson at the top of the list. Then Earl Campbell, his Houston Oilers days. Then the great Jim Brown and Terrell Davis. And then the guy who ran in Denver in that system to gain some of those yards as well, Clinton Portis. That's impressive.
I've heard of those first four guys. I've heard of them. If you put somebody else's name with them, that's a great honor. That's a great honor for Portis to be in the same graphic with those guys, and obviously deservedly to this point.
First 60 games, and as with so many of the others, longevity. Can you keep doing it and stay healthy? Big 3rd and 3, and Brunell puts some mustard on it, and Brandon Lloyd couldn't bring it down, but a flag down back at the quarterback.
Roughing the passer, number 99 of the defense, extending his arms and pushing the quarterback to the ground after the ball is thrown. 15-yard penalty, automatic, first down.
Erasmus James.
You have to understand, if you're a defensive lineman or a linebacker, the league is going to protect his quarterbacks. I think they protect them a little too much at times, but the fact of the matter is, it's just a push, but you can't do it. You have to understand what you can and cannot do when it comes to quarterbacks, and literally, you can't touch them. I mean, yesterday I saw a bunch of calls where guys got tapped. 15-yard penalty at a crucial time, too. Another one on a 3rd down.
And you saw the volume of penalties for the Vikings tonight. Toss Portis. Betts, I beg your pardon, to the 4-yard line. Liddell Betts running it to the 4. Now, many of you might be rejoining us after watching President Bush's comments on 9/11 5 years later. What's been going on here? Brad Johnson, 10 of 20, threw a touchdown on the last drive to Robinson to put the Vikings back on top, 16-13. We've seen a little bit of Clinton Portis in this drive. 7 carries, 33 yards, a touchdown in the second quarter from 5 yards out that put Washington ahead 10-6. They went ahead 13-6. Since then, the Vikings ended the half with a field goal. The touchdown we just showed you. Washington trying to answer that touchdown with one of their own. And it is back to Portis, who gets it to the 3-yard line. So the 3rd down coming up.
We'll take a shot at calling the next play. You're a quarterback.
I think that Chris Cooley is going to have to show up somewhere for the Redskins in this offense, and he's very effective down around the goal line. Had 7 touchdown catches last year.
And Brunell's so good down here too, throwing inside the 5.
So are you calling this to Cooley?
I'm calling this one to Cooley.
Let's see.
Yes, I am.
5 seconds ago, you said he wasn't even in the offense.
He wasn't.
Cooley's 47. He's the move man. Blocking is Brunell. Again, gets rid of it to save the field goal opportunity. Benicio Udeze put on the heat.
They're booing. Hey, I don't think you boo that in a 3-point game because now you have the opportunity to tie the game because their first botched extra point kick.
Good job by the Minnesota Viking defense. I believe the next time down, the Redskins will probably want to spread them out a little bit more as opposed to bringing everybody in and getting nobody out into the pass route.
When you see 2 27-yard field goals and a 22-yard attempt for John Hall, that says one of 2 things. Good red zone defense, missed red zone opportunities.
I think it's more missed red zone opportunities or just downright ugly in the red zone.
A lot of times you don't choose the sport chooses you. So, you know, for kids, I think that it's important that they have fun.
The most important thing is to never ever give up and to always try your hardest, and if you never lose sight of that sense of happiness and never giving up and being happy and trying your best and knowing that that's the most important thing, then you can't really put a foot down.
My advice to beginners is just to take it slow. You know, the stuff you see on TV and in magazines takes years to master, and you've got to really be patient and persistent. You know, be determined, but take it slow.
ESPN brings you the best soccer action in the world. The UEFA Champions League, the most prestigious club event in European football. The FA Cup brings together only the best in England. Italian Serie A, 38 exclusive matches. International friendly soccer, featuring England, Germany and Ireland. European qualifiers, more than 30 games as they prepare for Euro 2008. And ESPN Soccer Net Press Pass wraps it all with shows on Monday and Friday night. The world's best soccer action, only on ESPN. The competition is dead brilliant. And if they're on target, the Yanks may beat the Europeans at their own game.
There's no room in there. There's no space.
The World Series of Darts, Friday on ESPN.
In Oakland, Phillip Rivers arriving. He's thrown 30 passes, played in 4 games. But after a couple of years of watching, the 4th overall pick in the draft of 2004 finally gets his start. San Diego, Oakland, game 2 of our Monday Night Football season opening doubleheader. Brad Nessler, Dick Vermeil, Ron Jaworski, Bonnie Bernstein bring it to you as soon as we're done in Washington. All square at 16. 4.5 left in the 3rd. The return by Williamson, stopped at the 22. Rocky McIntosh, the 2nd-round pick out of Miami, and Vernon Fox combine on the hit. Long field for Brad Johnson, who threw a touchdown last time on the field.
It's the dawn of a new age in driving. Introducing the all-new Holden Commodore. Designed from the word go to be one of the most exciting cars in the world, with linear control suspension and the added safety of electronic stability program standard. So after 6 years and over $1 billion, it leaves the competition in the Stone Age. The all-new Holden Commodore. Go like never before. It started with a dream.
Santiago!
A beautiful dream.
Never played professional.
I've just seen a young player. I think he's a remarkable talent.
Get yourself to England, Newcastle United to give you a trial.
Why are you feeling with ideas like this? When you keep your feet on the ground instead of your head in the sky.
A beautiful chance.
I got one chance, and you think I should just, what, give it up?
Jeez, a stupid dream. Santiago! Welcome to the tune.
To play the beautiful game.
Football's a religion up here. In London, you've got any number of teams. Up here, though, it's just the tune. What are you looking at?
You're talking about soccer, right?
No.
Football?
That's all there is to talk about.
You get one shot at life.
This is the young man I was telling you about.
Let's see what this got. It's from Mexico. Be gentle, son. Adios, amigo.
Live the dream.
Well, great players take risks because they don't believe the risks.
That's my boy.
That's my son.
Goal starts Thursday, September 21, only on Foxtel Box Office.
We open our regular season in Washington. We opened the preseason in Minnesota, where the Vikings were the first of the 10 teams in the NFL to make a coaching change this year. Brad Childress' team tied at 16. Tim Kleinsasser, the tight end, takes the big Sean Taylor hit, but gains 8 yards on first down. Here's Michelle Tafoya.
Mike, we mentioned earlier that Brad Childress made a tough decision tonight by deactivating his starting free safety, Dwight Smith, for disciplinary reasons. Earlier today, I spoke with someone who knows Childress very well, Donovan McNabb. McNabb told me Childress is a disciplinarian, a great motivator, someone who looks you in the eye and tells you the truth, and therefore a guy you can trust. Clearly, he wasn't mincing words when Childress told his players they'd be held accountable for everything, Mike.
On the run, Michelle, for the first down with Chester Taylor. And this is a guy who was in Philadelphia with McNabb. Before that was at Wisconsin as the offensive coordinator. He's been 2 places in 14 years, and certainly there's a track record. 1, he's a proven coach, and he's good. And 2, when he looks you in the eye and tells you something, that's the way it's going to be, and that's what we've seen from him in his first 6 months on the job.
This is very important. If he says we're looking for good people and good players in that order, and then he walks the walk, he sits someone down rather than get further enmeshed in scandalous behavior at a franchise that has been enmeshed in it, you have to give him credit for that at great risk to his team.
Into the backfield, pressure on Brad Johnson. Able to get it out left-handed, and Wiggins didn't hold on. Marcus Washington smelling a sack, and Johnson goes southpaw.
Marcus Washington cannot believe it. He comes from the right side. You'll see actually the left side of the screen unblocked. He grabs him. He has his right arm. He can't do anything with it. He transfers the ball over, and Jermaine Wiggins can't hold on to it. This is just unbelievable. Slide it over, little ambidextrous move, throw it on out that way.
Well, he's been in the league so long, he's learned to pass with both hands. This is an important thing.
Remember, he's the guy who completed a touchdown pass to himself. Yes.
So he can throw to everybody.
2nd and 10. Screen set up for Taylor. Able to keep his feet and get out to the 41-yard line. Here's Susie Colbert. Susie.
Mike, we saw Marcus Washington on the sack. Well, we know he's the undisputed leader of the defense for his talent. He's upbeat. But more than anything, it's in the cards. Yes, he's used flashcards. He figured if this worked for him, multiplication tables in elementary school, he figured they'd work in football. He's been using these in college and the NFL. Flashcards, you can see the plays and the names. He can pull them out anytime, on the plane, on the bus, while he's watching TV. He said that's what's just made him so prepared.
I love it. Very elementary. 3rd and 3. Good air under the ball to get it to Chester Taylor, who keeps the play alive and gets a lot of extra yardage out of it to the 36-yard line. First down, and Chester Taylor looking like that #1 back Minnesota said he could be.
We hadn't heard much from Chester Taylor because all they did was pound the ball, pound the ball, pound the ball. This is what happens. You run a little bit of play action. Tony Richardson does a great job on a block, helping out the protection, and then you let Chester Taylor go do his thing with the ball in his hands.
Richardson kept going. Got a couple of people on the way through. Free agency acquisition for the Vikings. Former blocker in Kansas City. The timeout here is Philip Daniels, the right defensive end for the Redskins, is down. As they look at Daniels, will step out. Vikings on the move.
Picked a spot on the court that wasn't. Lendl had a very good backhand when he had a lot of room to hit the ball, and he could have swing was wide of him. Or he was very good when it was in close, he just blocked the ball. But he didn't have anything in between. It was either very big or very small. So I aimed in between, and I had to hit the spot. And I was hoping he would take a big swing, thinking that he could, but then the ball would come back to him, so he got in trouble. I looked at the spot and I hit the exact spot on the court, and he did exactly what I was hoping he'd do. He took a big swing and he didn't have enough room. It came back into him and he mishit the ball, and that was when I knew I won the match.
Imagine yourself holding onto a moving rocket as it propels at speeds over 300 miles per hour. With ESPN, you can experience the fastest quarter mile in all of sports. The best in each class. Top Fuel, Funny Car, Pro Stock, Motorcycle, pushing their machines as fast as the laws of physics will allow. NHRA Drag Racing on ESPN.
That's the scene 15 miles west of FedEx Field, live at the Pentagon. Those 184 points of light skyward in remembrance of those who perished on American Airlines Flight 77 bound for LAX. Took off from Dulles and crashed into the Pentagon 1,826 days ago. Everyone here was given a flag when they came in. It was a very patriotic scene at times, but reconciling strong emotions of the Pentagon, 9/11, and opening night of football here in D.C. Big hit on Taylor, who hit the hole hard. One more time, Sean Taylor with the tackle.
Sean Taylor, if the Minnesota Vikings continue to gash the front of the Redskins, Sean Taylor's going to have to come up and make plays. Then what they're going to do is try and go up top. They're going to run play action, get him to commit towards the line of scrimmage, and then try and go up on top of him. That's why you pound. Even though you don't gain a lot of yards, you never give up on running the football.
Second and 2, flag down.
Ball start. Offense number 74. 5-yard penalty is still second down.
Sports Center 30 at 30. Here's Carl Ravitch.
Michael, among the offenses that struggled yesterday, the Patriots, they will not get Deion Branch back. He's a Seahawk now. The Patriots get the Seahawks #1 pick in the 07 draft. The Patriots have also asked the league to look at tampering charges against the Jets. Trent Green, very, very severe concussion. A source close to him says he'll likely miss at least the next 2 games. The Chiefs have asked the league to review the hit on Green.
Thank you, Carl. Mobile ESPN for alerts on your favorite NFL teams and players. SportsCenter follows the Chargers and Raiders. Play clock running down. Johnson just gets it off. And Neweldy Moore is taken down by Peter Golston, the rookie from Georgia. So the Redskins, without the injured Ronaldo win, Demetric Evans limping off, going deep into the D-line.
Mike, also back to what Carl was saying, it's great that Trent Green's going to be okay. That is absolutely terrific. The shot he took is unbelievable. And we've seen some incredible hitting here tonight. Carlos Rogers and Sean Taylor on the kick return. Also now Sean Taylor on the defensive side.
Good
September 12, and on this day in 2000, New York Yankees troubled star Darryl Strawberry found himself with more problems. The 38-year-old outfielder, who at the time was suspended and on probation, was found guilty of driving under the influence of medication and leaving the scene of an accident. He was sentenced to 2 years house arrest, meaning he can only leave home to go to work or to the doctor. Also on this day, former Indian cricket captain Kapil Dev, who at the time was embroiled in a match-fixing scandal, resigned as India's coach. Dev, one of the most successful bowlers in Test history, had been coach for almost 1 year and captained India to their 1983 World Cup win. And Chinese basketball sensation Yao Ming, who stands at 7 feet 6 inches tall and plays for the Houston Rockets, celebrates his birthday on this day, September 12.
You want game? This fall, ESPN Game Plan has up to 150 extra college football games. Key matchups and rivalries from major conferences, all available when you order your exclusive ESPN Game Plan pay-per-view package. It's maximum college football.
Get full access to live college football games online with ESPN's Game Plan. To order Game Plan, go to ESPN.com and search Game Plan.
Minnesota Viking on this roster, the almost 38-year-old Brad Johnson getting the job done here. Good third quarter, tied at 16 as we start the fourth.
The oldest guy in the league.
On offense.
On offense. He's the oldest guy in the league. Doesn't look like it, though.
The quarter starts with a big play, 3rd and 10. Right on the edge of field goal range. Johnson doesn't take the sack as the pass is incomplete. Good pressure off the corner with Philip Daniels back in.
Now, here you go. Now's a choice. What do? Do you go for it? Do you kick the field goal? Nice job by just the front four of the Redskins. Good pressure. Marcus Washington. Now, in that particular setup, they leave 3 down linemen and 3 defensive linemen, and they allow Marcus Washington to be able to put his hand down and rush the quarterback.
Ryan Longwell from 54 yards. He's 6 of his last 11 over 50 yards. Could equal a career long here, but he missed it. He was 6 of his last 7 from 50 or more, but that one came nowhere near for Longwell.
Well, here's the thing. Your defense is playing so well. For Brad Childress' situation, you think to yourself, why not punt him back? Put the defense there. Look at the field position the Redskins wind up with, even with the headache.
ESPN. Italian football on ESPN.
The UEFA Champions League returns to ESPN with Group Stage 1, Match Day 1. Live Wednesday, PSV battles the great English power Liverpool. Then the holders Barcelona takes on Levski Sofia. And mighty Chelsea plays Germany's Werder Bremen. And then on Thursday, Big Red, Manchester United takes on Scottish power Celtic. Lyon takes on the legends Real Madrid. And the German club Hamburg in action against Arsenal. The UEFA Champions League on ESPN.
ESPN's Monday Night Football is brought to you by the all-new Mazda CX-7, the SUV you never saw coming. Good as triple tread technology. Travel confidently in any weather, anytime.
FedEx. For more football fun, go to FedExFootball.com. And eBay Express, where you'll always find it new. eBayExpress.com.
On their own, NFL games in Washington are an event, but the stars are still here. Tom Cruise and wife watching. Jamie Foxx, who was in the booth with us in the first half. All in Dan Snyder, the owner's box to our right. The field goal attempt came from the 44, so they're back there now. And Brunel with good field position across midfield is Portis for a gain of 8. Before we leave the Longwell field goal, which was one of those first decisions the head coach has to make, because you give Washington a shorter field. Michelle Tafoya told us during the break down on the sideline, the wind has picked up, and it was hurting that field goal attempt.
What picked up Clinton Portis was one of my favorite corners, Antoine Winfield. This defense is built for him, where the corners play up, the safeties are back, he's around the line of scrimmage. Heck of a tackler, heck of a player.
Second and 2, dancing through the hole for the first down. This time to the 43-yard line. Tony goes Portis.
One of the great things you can do sitting in the booth is you can second guess. When you're a sports writer, you make a living second guessing people. In a tie game, to attempt a field goal from 54 yards out seems something you can second guess. I don't care how good the kicker is beyond 50. Beyond 50 is an awfully long kick, and look where the Redskins got the ball, and in 2 plays, look what they've done. So Brad Childress has to live with people like me second-guessing that particular event.
Yeah, Rod Marinelli lived it in Detroit. Didn't go for a 50-plus-yard field goal. Seahawks come down the field and win. Sometimes you trust your defense. And as Joe said, Minnesota's defense has been okay. A couple of yards here on the first down carry as Portis works here through the quarter. Well, Joe Gibbs and the Redskins, they are no strangers to Monday Night Football because of their success coming off Super Bowl championships, usually against a division team. But Joe Gibbs is 0-5 in Monday Night Football openers, and his record is 2 for 1 wins to losses in the rest of the regular season games.
I managed to help lose 2 of them.
Just 2.
All by myself in the 85 game.
A lot of people remember that, Joe.
Thank you.
You may not want to walk through the stands.
Only threw 5 interceptions in that. Didn't complete as many to my guys. Sometimes you got to live up to stuff like that.
Brunel's second down with time comes back to Chris Cooley. Fred Smoot smelled it out. And the former Redskin who left last year is thrilled to make a big play here at FedEx Field.
I love what Darren Sharper said about Fred Smoot. He says he talks all the time. I think he just likes to hear himself talk. And everybody wondered, is Fred Smoot tough enough? He's put on some weight, put on almost 15 pounds. He's up to 195 pounds. Still has the quickness and the speed. But certainly we can see has the ability to hit.
Those sounds that you heard used to be Smoot chants here at FedEx. Those were clearly boos tonight. Third and 17. Is the pressure coming? It is. Here come the Vikings. Brunel's pass incomplete. And Washington has to kick it away.
You'll notice that Fred Smoot made that real good play on dry land. You know, he's not going out on the water again. He told us point blank, I'm going to be on dry land, not just for this year, but forever. And I wrote down if he fishes, he's going to fish off a dock from now on. He's going nowhere near the water. That whole thing with the sex boat just cost him 1 game check and has finally been adjudicated.
Yeah, the lewd conduct and 4 Vikings were charged. And as you said, finally wrapping up with that Lake Minnetonka incident back during last season in October. And he was fined a full game check. So was Bryant McKinney. Moore lets it go. It dies inside the 5 and down by Mike Sellers. That's a 2. So for all the stress and the poor punt early from Derek Frost, he's had a couple of very key kicks. This one flips the field. Minnesota has 97 yards to go.
Okay, what are you doing?
A movie-making competition.
Conflict, passion, clashing egos.
8 up-and-coming directors.
Sounds sexy.
Facing off in a short film shootout. Now, the audience votes for the winning film.
Raw talent versus determination.
And the winner gets $1 million to make their feature.
There's your money shot.
A brand new series, Project Greenlight, starts Thursday 8:30 on Movie Extra.
24 hours is a long time in business. Per capita, Australians are the world's biggest investors. We hammer our credit cards and borrow big.
Every weekday, Sky brings you the very latest in business news, including First Business at 7:50 a.m.
Interest rate worries have resurfaced again.
Market day at 4:45 p.m.
The Australian stocks dived into the red.
And 8:30 in the evening, the full half hour of Sky Business Report.
So how informed are you?
The top tax rate will be 30 cents or less.
On Sunday, catch up with Sky Business Week.
To be much greater than I expected.
Plus, at the touch of the red button, our dedicated business channel.
Know now. Big shock with Sky News.
He was the straw that stirred the Vikings, the defining character of this franchise. Randy Moss, year 2 as a Raider, opens against the Chargers in Oakland as soon as we're done here in Washington, the Monday Night Football doubleheader. Place going nuts while you were gone. Vikings backed up at their own 2. Taylor climbs through the hole and gets to the 7-yard line. Gain of 5. It's tough rushing yards there, running to the right.
This is where, if you're the Redskin defense, you have to be careful because you've got a lot of field to defend. And Sean Taylor has been flying up and flying up and flying up. Greg Williams, their defensive coordinator, can't let his safety get too aggressive or else he's going to wind up having to run and chase somebody down the field.
Johnson pumping through the deep ball. Incomplete. Taylor was headhunting Robinson. Marcus Washington again the pressure. And a flag comes down back where Taylor was.
They're going to call Sean Taylor for a late hit. It's getting to a point where you just about can't touch anybody after the ball looks like it leaves their body.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness. Defense number 21. Lowering his head to the chest of a defenseless receiver. 15-yard penalty, automatic.
Trying to protect the defenseless receiver. Watch his head, the crown of his helmet.
But it hits him in the shoulder. I mean, watch this. Marcus Robinson actually could have possibly made a play back on the ball because the ball stayed in the field of play. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying that when the ball is still in the field of play, there's a possibility that a receiver could tip it and make a play on it.
Do you think that Sean Taylor's reputation as a tough guy who makes plays like that works against him in that circumstance because they look for him at all?
No. No.
Remember, it was Mike Carey's crew that worked the wild card game against Tampa Bay last year when Taylor was ejected for spitting. Against the Buccaneers, the run for a couple of yards with Chester Taylor. Marcus Washington, very active, made the tackle.
I think your reputation does work against you. I think referees look at games and they look at players, and in a case like that, I think it's reasonable to at least suggest that his reputation worked against him.
It's reasonable to consider it.
Thank you.
2nd and 8. Travis Taylor, the receiver, has not been heard from tonight for the Vikings. He was in motion. Now he's blocking. And Chester Taylor can't get back to the line. Demetric Evans again.
Demetric Evans has had a terrific night. He's a backup defensive tackle and end, playing behind Andre Carter on that right side. But he has knocked down passes. He's run people down, screens, slides inside both blocks. Brian McKinney couldn't block him. And he makes another terrific play.
3rd-year Redskin, 2 years with the Cowboys, out of football in 03. Big factor tonight. 3rd down coming up. The house gets loud again.
And 3rd down has not been kind to the Redskins defensively.
Johnson down the middle. Travis Taylor hung on to the 49-yard line. First down.
Mike, you wondered where he was? He was hiding inside. Right down the slot. The Redskins, again, on third down, cannot convert. Right part of your screen. Goes right into the slot. The quickness with which Brad Johnson gets the ball out and the accuracy.
Great throw.
What are his numbers on third down tonight? How many has he converted?
Look at that. Kenny Wright almost gets a hand on it.
First catch of the night for Travis Taylor. It picked up 24. This drive started way on back at the 2. Now near midfield. Chester Taylor. And now they run left side, and those 1s and 2s are becoming 7s and 8s. Archuleta the tackle.
You look at the left side of this Minnesota line. Bryant McKinney, Steve Hutchinson. That's where they've run an awful lot. Chester Taylor slides up. The hole that they create with their bodies is incredible. Make Archuleta come up and make the play. Get down around the goal line. McKinney will shield the inside. Hutchinson starts that way, then bounces off. Touchdown, Chester Taylor. That's why you run left all the time.
2nd and 2, heading that way with Taylor. That time, Archuleta read it and made the play. A penalty marker comes in. Did he get him up at the face mask area?
Incidental face mask. Defense number 22. 5-yard penalty. Results in first down.
I don't think it was Carlos Rogers. I think it was Adam Archuleta, number 40.
Yeah. And Mike Carey just corrected it on the PA to the fans. And that play stopped there. Joe showed us good running. Successful running the ball. Tony has gotten Minnesota out here now.
Well, Brad Childress told us the other day, you better be able to bloody someone's nose and you better be able to run out the clock. I'd like to believe we'll be able to do that. This is the circumstance in which they're trying to do that. And I think they have the Redskins back on their heels on defense. The Redskins defense has been the best part of this club for 2 or 3 years. And the Vikings have had great success against it tonight. At home for the Redskins.
In the 44, play action. Receivers run deep on the right. Try to come back to Troy Williamson, who had it in his hands. A tougher catch. That's 3 he could have had tonight. 3 drops.
I wouldn't call that a drop. His feet went out from underneath him when he went down to try and make a play on it. Brad Johnson gets the ball out so quick. That's not easy. I mean, that one, he's diving for it, trying to make a play on it.
Could have had it. Tough play.
Hit him in the head.
There's another third down.
Not hit him in the head?
Yeah, but I mean, he was losing his balance, too.
All right.
Not like the other one that hit him in the head when he was running down the field.
Johnson throwing for Kleinsasser, the tight end, who was well covered by Lamar Marshall, the middle linebacker. So even with the Redskin penalties that extended this drive, the Vikings will have to punt.
But the Vikings accomplished what they wanted to. They got the ball away from their own goal line, moved it out into position where now they can possibly pin the Redskins back deep or at least make them go a long way.
And this is where the punter, Chris Cluey, who worked on his directional kicking so much after coming back from a torn ACL, will try to keep it away from Randall L. Down it inside the 10, just like Derek Frost did for the Redskins last time around. Roniel Whitaker, the gunner, was back behind the goal line. No chance to locate the ball. Washington will take over at its own 20.
Your destiny isn't a matter of chance. It's a matter of the choices that you make. It's not something that you wait for. It's something that you actually have to go out and achieve. And my success as a swimmer was that I didn't leave it to chance. I trained hard for many, many years. I swam approximately almost the equivalent of going around the world at the equator, 26,000 miles.
And very important as a kid to get a goal in the life
Doesn't matter what you want to do. First is goal, the second is discipline. It's very important. And the third, to be ready for something difficult, because doesn't matter what you do in the sports or in the life, you have to go through a lot of, through the walls, through the difficulties.
ESPN brings you the best soccer action in the world. The UEFA Champions League, the most prestigious club event in European football. The FA Cup brings together only the best in England. Italian Serie A, 38 exclusive matches. International friendly soccer, featuring England, Germany and Ireland. European qualifiers, more than 30 games as they prepare for Euro 2008. And ESPN Soccer Net Press Pass wraps it all with shows on Monday and Friday night. The world's best soccer action, only on ESPN. The competition is dead brilliant. And if they're on target, the Yanks may beat the Europeans at their own game.
There's no room in there. There's no space.
The World Series of Darts, Friday on ESPN.
Brad Childress' first game as a head coach. Joe Gibbs has been at this for a decade plus. And Joe, what are you thinking on the sideline?
Well, Mike, you have to think now, if you're Brad Childress and Joe Gibbs, at most I'll get 2 possessions. So it's vital for the Redskins to be able to get some first downs and change field position, hope their defense can stop, maybe win it with a field goal. Vikings are thinking, if we can hold them deep here, we can do the same thing on the other end.
Brunell's quick hit, first down to the 32 for Antoine Randall, who's been a factor tonight. Antoine Winfield tripping him up. If you're just joining us as we come across the halfway mark of the fourth quarter, a missed extra point off the Vikings' first touchdown is the reason our game is tied right now.
Now where you're looking for is the $2 million offensive coordinator to come up with all those plays, which is the reason you brought him here to begin with.
But then you have to get those $1 million players to execute. The 2 is nothing compared to the player.
Chris Cooley in motion. Liddell Betts on the toss to the 34-yard line. We've seen some of Clinton Portis, especially in the third quarter. It's Betts here right now.
The difference in this offense the Redskins have from a year ago is 62% of the runs last year were run in between the tackles. I would venture to say of the runs that the Redskins have had tonight, probably 3 maybe have been between the tackles. Everything else has been at the perimeter. That's going to be a distinctive difference in the style of offense that they have in 06 that they had in 05.
Randall, the motion man, clears out the area for Mike Sellers, who's bumped out of bounds by Fred Smoot and E.J. Henderson. Sellers had never carried the ball in his NFL career, now in his 7th year, but 38 receptions, including 13 touchdowns.
He's never carried it once in 7 years
of his NFL career. Carried a couple times in preseason.
12 receptions last year, 7 touchdowns, Mike. That's a pretty good percentage for a guy hardly touching the football.
Third and 6. Bunch at the bottom of the screen. And off that bunch, the block pass knocked down by Ray Edwards, the rookie out of Purdue. So the 4th-round pick for the Vikings comes up with a big play as they were trying to dump it over his outstretched arm to Betts.
If he's got crazy glue on his hand, that's a game ender, because he's taking that all the way in.
What a play, though. At 6'5", able to get up there at about 8 feet to knock that down.
Got the big mitts on it. See, you don't need 7-footers to do that, Tony. We talked about that earlier.
He's 6'5",
right? but he can jump like a 7-footer.
So 3 and out as these teams exchange punts. Moore fair catching it at the 28-yard line. We have a penalty marker down.
Going to be an ineligible. Now, if you're the Vikings, I think you have them re-kick it.
You don't want to tack it on?
Oh, yeah, you can tack it on.
That option in the rules?
I'd almost rather have them re-kick it. Give me another shot.
And he's asking Brad Childress now.
He'll probably tack it on.
Ineligible receiver downfield on a kick by the kicking team. It's a 5-yard penalty. Minnesota's elected to take it on the return. 5 yards, first down, timeout.
Best explanations of any official in the league, Mike Carey. 5.5 to go. San Diego and Oakland warming up. This one heating.
The evolution of the Volvo XC90 has been remarkable. With its ability to adapt to different terrains, this creature has developed superior self-defense skills and the capacity to carry 7 live humans. But perhaps the most astonishing change has been to its diet. The XC90 is now feeding on something new. Diesel. The 7-seat Volvo XC90 diesel from $72,950. It's time to Volvo.
This September on Lifestyle, it's spring. It's time to build a new life. We can really make it happen. Escape the daily grind.
I would live somewhere magical that would make me feel great. It is like a fairy tale.
Shake your foundations.
Nothing will change in this family until you get more respect.
Embark on a new venture.
I could be quite comfortable sitting this side of the bar.
Nurture a labor of love.
It's an incredible spectacle.
And re-energize your goals.
It's your personality that will make this place successful.
This September, wake up and smell the flowers.
If you're going to make a change, why not make a big one?
It's time to build a new life on the Lifestyle Channel.
Chargers open the season in Oakland. Game 2 of our Monday Night Football doubleheader coming up next here on ESPN.
Unlike Sellers, they give him the ball and say run with it.
A couple of
Smart
times.
move.
Vikings taking over at the 33-yard line. And Taylor takes it to the 37. Recapping what's happened on this September 11th, very patriotic and emotional scenes here at FedEx Field in Washington. Brad Johnson throwing a touchdown here in the second half. He's completed half of his passes. Clinton Portis has touched it a dozen times, 10 runs, 2 receptions, 50 yards, scored a touchdown in the second. This missed extra point on the first touchdown. The snap was fine. Chris Cluey, the punter, did a poor job on the hold. That's why we're tied, hitting the 5-minute mark, and Taylor hits it again. First down to the 47-yard line. Tony Richardson, the free agent fullback, with a big block.
What Brad Childress, both the offensive coordinator and the head coach, is trying to do is he's trying to force Greg Williams, the defensive coordinator of the Redskins, to bring more people up around the line of scrimmage so he can take a shot. He's just letting his offensive line pound away. You can almost make a case, Mike. Brian McKinney, Steve Hutchinson, Matt Burke on that left side could be one of the best in football.
And they asked, could this guy be a number 1 back? 25 carries tonight, ties his career high in the game. Play action. Johnson comes down to Wiggins. He's just a yard or so.
Chester Taylor has run the football. Where has he run it all night? 25 times, 76 hard yards. Got the 1 touchdown up the middle. But look at that. 20 times to the left and up the middle, and only 5 to the right side. It tells you where the Minnesota Vikings are going to hang their hat running the football.
It also tells you the commitment that they're going to make to running the football, taking the early gains of 1 and 2 yards, hoping that by the fourth quarter they wear out the defense.
Sean Taylor struggling with his hand that he banged up on that last play. Second and 10 and nowhere to go. What a game Marcus Washington's having. Michelle Tafoya.
Mike, Tony Richardson told me what he thought of Chester Taylor, and I'll quote, "People might think I'm crazy, but Chester reminds me of Priest Holmes. They might look small from far away, but up close, they're both put together well. They have great vision. Taylor's a tough guy and does a good job following blocks. Time will tell." Remember, Tony Richardson is a Pro Bowl fullback who has blocked for Priest Holmes and Larry Johnson. He knows his running backs, Mike.
It certainly does.
And Mike, third down for the Redskins has been absolutely miserable. Their defense cannot get off the field.
Pressure coming. picked up. Johnson's throw is complete. Fighting for the first down is Williamson, who dropped 3 key balls tonight. Got out of the tackle of Carlos Rogers. Penalty marker down. And we'll attack onto this. Childress wants the 15-yard face mask.
Personal foul.
It is.
Major face mask. Defense. Number 21. From the end of the run, 15 yards, automatic. First down.
Total gain 28 yards.
Troy Williamson just had a ton of room with Carlos Rogers. Then Sean Taylor comes in and grabs him around the helmet. Another Sean Taylor penalty. Another 15-yarder, which has kept the Minnesota drive alive. Now, the Minnesota Vikings will run the football to force the Redskins to use their timeouts.
You're in field goal range here for Longwell. You've got that high-paid left side of the line. Taylor cuts it back. Keeps his feet going and gets close to another first down as we close in on the 2-minute warning. Redskins might think about taking a timeout here. And they will. Washington's going to stop the clock to try to retain some time.
Steve Hutchinson is just a beast. He takes Cornelius Griffin, just runs him out of town.
I know you don't want to go back into that notion of Sean Taylor and getting penalties on reputation, but 2 big second-half penalties against Sean Taylor.
Now, reputation, though, is not grabbing a face mask. I mean, that, you grab a face mask, that's just a bad decision. I mean, he is a big hitter. He likes to play that way. He's going to play that way. Problem is, you can't tackle people up around the head. I mean, we're starting to get a sense. What we've seen, I think, in this first week of football is that the league is making a conscientious effort to protect guys who are exposed and protect quarterbacks.
But if you're the Redskins and you end up losing this game when it happens late in the fourth quarter, you will look at those 2 penalties and you'll have a chat with Mr. Taylor, won't you?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And a measurement here on the Chester-Taylor run. It's going to come up short. So it'll be second and short, 2:26 left. And Joe Gibbs is doing what you need to do here. Try to preserve time for yourself and get the ball back with a chance to tie the game or win it if Minnesota kicks a field goal.
In essence, with the 2-minute warning, you have 3 timeouts. So they'll run it here. Let's say they pick up a first down, you stop the clock. Run it again, stop the clock. Run it again, stop the clock. Now, you're at the mercy of that clock with 40 seconds running down. Not a whole lot of time to give yourself an opportunity, if you have to either kick a field goal or get a touchdown, depending on what Minnesota does.
When you talk about building a foundation of a team, and Steve Hutchinson, the guard is the most anonymous position in football. But what everybody tells, he's got nastiness about him, and they're playing as a line with a little bit of that physical nastiness here in the second half. Second and 1, Chester Taylor gets the first down to the 11-yard line, and that will force more time to come off the clock in field goal range.
I'm going to go back to the statement by Brad Childress the other day. You better be able to bloody someone's nose, and you'd better be able to run out the clock. I'd like to believe we'll be able to do that. They're doing that right now.
Looks like they are.
Going to take it down to the 2-minute warning. In field goal range, but remember they missed an extra point earlier. All tied at 16 with the Chargers and Raiders on deck.
September 12, and on this day in 2000, New York Yankees troubled star Darryl Strawberry found himself with more problems. The 38-year-old outfielder, who at the time was suspended and on probation, was found guilty of driving under the influence of medication and leaving the scene of an accident. He was sentenced to 2 years house arrest, meaning he can only leave home to go to work or to the doctor. Also on this day, former Indian cricket captain Kapil Dev, who at the time was embroiled in a match-fixing scandal, resigned as India's coach. Dev, one of the most successful bowlers in Test history, had been coached for almost 1 year and captained India to their 1983 World Cup win. And Chinese basketball sensation Yao Ming, who stands at 7 feet 6 inches tall and plays for the Houston Rockets, celebrates his birthday on this day, September 12.
ESPN brings you the best soccer action in the world. The UEFA Champions League, the most prestigious club event in European football. The FA Cup brings together only the best in England. Italian Serie A, 38 exclusive matches. International friendly soccer, featuring England, Germany and Ireland. European qualifiers, more than 30 games as they prepare for Euro 2008. And ESPN Soccernet Press Box wraps it all with shows on Monday and Friday night. The world's best soccer action, only on ESPN.
I know Viking fans will be hanging around. You'll all be hanging around. Randy Moss puts on a show on Monday nights. We'll see Moss and the Raiders with Aaron Brooks' new quarterback against San Diego. Game 2 of our Monday Night Football season opening doubleheader coming up next here on ESPN.
It's a great look for Randy Moss. That's a great do, isn't it? Come on. That's great.
And Phillip Rivers gets a chance to start. The guy they ran out of town, Drew Brees, got a victory down in New Orleans. Congratulations to Sean Payton. Now Brad Johnson trying to do it for his coach.
2 minutes left. Skins a couple of timeouts. 1st and 10. Taylor left side into the waiting arms of Archuleta at the 11. Washington will stop it here with 1:52 to go. The Redskins can stop it one more time, giving Minnesota a good opportunity to run significant chunks off the clock if they don't get a first down or a touchdown and run it down to where they can take a field goal and not leave Washington timeouts or time on the clock.
Where the inept nature of this football team has been, the Minnesota Vikings have had 173 yards this half. The Washington Redskins 73. If I'm Brad Childress, I'm willing to run play action pass and try and score a touchdown.
You would do that. I was just going to ask you that. Would you only hand the ball off here and play for the field goal?
No, because the field goal is almost in the bank right now. It's close enough. It's not a lot of pressure.
You would run the risk of making the kind of mistake where something could be run back for a touchdown.
I don't believe Brad Johnson would make that kind of mistake for me. I believe in him enough to protect the football.
You can milk the clock way down here, guys, inside of 30 seconds if you keep running it. Washington just 1 timeout left. Here's Taylor. He does the smart thing, stays inside, tackled inbounds, timeout taken now with 1:49 to go. So you're out of timeouts. You're going to run a play, run it down for as much as you can. And there's Ziggy Wolf, the owner and chairman of the Minnesota Vikings. And Tony, when he got his hands on the new baby that he bought, all the baby did was cry and dirty the diapers.
Absolutely. Within 20 seconds of buying the house collapsed, if we can go away from the baby analogy. Now he's got to feel great. I mean, the possibility of going on the road, beating a playoff team in the opening game for his new coach, his new staff, and making the decision that he and Brad Childress did to get rid of Dante Culpepper and take the oldest quarterback in the league who's played and distinguished himself tonight. Everything would look to be good for Ziggy Wolf right now.
For the Redskins, you've got to figure you're going to get the ball back, possibly down by 3 points with about a minute to go and no timeouts, which is going to be critical for who's going to be back returning the kick. What kind of field position are you going to get? All those things have to be thought about by the owner, Daniel Snyder, on the right side. And Tom Cruise, I glanced over and looked at him. He said, this has been unbelievable. And he's right.
Maybe Tom Cruise will give him a play to send it. Hey, remember he was in that movie, All the Right Moves.
But put Jamie Foxx in the back there. Jamie can play.
Brunell waiting, hoping he'll get the ball back with some time. You would figure Washington out of timeouts. You run it here, max the clock, and then go for your field goal attempt. Of course, they'd love to get the first down. Taylor just does the right thing. It'll be off the left hash and about a 30-yard field goal attempt. As the play clock runs down, it will be at 1:04 when the play clock gets to the end. And we'll see if Minnesota takes a timeout at that point and then goes for the field goal.
They're going to have the ball with about a minute to go. No timeouts. And it's a situation that you practice. You work on it. You work the sidelines. What you can do is you can have a receiver catch the ball in the middle of the field and actually go down.
And they'll stop it right there?
They'll stop it there.
All of this is presuming Minnesota makes the field goal. We go back to the very start of the game when Chris Kluwe, the second-year man on this Vikings team, is the punter. who really worked hard at holding to become the holder this year. And he held for 1 year at UCLA for a lefty kicker, so he got a little bit of a sense of doing that. But now holding for Ryan Longwell. So he's had to adjust to all of that. And now he has to make sure he holds on to the snap, which he didn't after the opening touchdown. As you see, when it has mattered to tie the game, go up, lead changing field goals. Last 2 minutes, Longwell, in his Packer days, was money.
So it would be a cheap shot to say, Chris, I don't have a clue. And so I won't say that on the air.
That would not be good.
I won't say it.
Even though you did, it wouldn't be good.
He's the holder. Leffler, the snapper. Officially a 31-yard field goal for the big free agency acquisition, Longwell. Vikings lead, 60 seconds remaining. No timeouts, Washington. So now it is on Minnesota's defense and the Redskins offense. And Susie, that means Mark Brunell.
And, Mike, it's been a massive effort for Brunell to learn this new offense. In his 14th season, almost 36 years old, he said it's been so tough. He dedicated his entire offseason to it at the expense of seeing his wife and kids. He went so far as to say he almost couldn't wait till tonight was over because there were so many question marks. Now he has to execute it in under 2 minutes, and soon enough, we'll all know how it turns out.
Lots of watching film of Trent Green when he ran this offense, memorizing the new offense. Here's your first test for not just Brunell.
That's exactly right. Al Saunders brought in with a 700-page playbook, and Joe Gibbs cedes the right to call the plays to him. Maybe Gibbs is thinking to himself, I might like to get back in the action here. You pay the guy over $2 million to come in as a coordinator. He has undoubtedly a great track record. This is pressure on him and on the offense to execute all this new stuff.
I think it's pressure on John Hall, their kicker, who doesn't have the strongest leg. He was 0 for 1 last year over 50.
Betts and Thrash for the kickoff return. Liddell Betts takes this one from the 10. He hit it hard out to the 38-yard line. So there's a big help to start this drive.
This is where you really have to manage the time as a quarterback. You've got to get people lined up. The most important thing is when you set your formations, don't put your receivers where they have to cross the field. If you line up with Santana Moss on the right, he stays on the right. Antoine Randall on the left, he stays on the left. Any way you can economize time. Redskins have no timeouts.
And if you're thinking give him a 47-yard field goal attempt, that would mean Washington gaining 32 yards. Antoine Randall in motion. Brunell throwing the sideline for Moss. A catch. Pushed out of bounds. Didn't get the feet down, but because he was pushed out, it's a good catch.
Now there's a case where you pick on the rookie safety. Mark Brunell pumps to the middle of the field, and Greg Blue can't get over to knock the ball out of Santana Moss's hands. Plus, he gets out of bounds to stop the clock.
Blew in for Dwight Smith, and because he was pushed out of bounds, not reviewable, the 1 foot down counts. It's a first down for the Redskins with 47 seconds to go. Randall nice, tough catch to make at the 34-yard line.
Look how aware this offense is what's going on. They're down to 30 seconds. They know it.
Marked at the 35. Brunell will keep it. A pump thought about deep. Now scrambling, gets out of the tackle box. Too tall for Brandon Lloyd. The Redskins wanted a flag for the defenseless receiver. How come we don't get one of those?
Well, also, he hits him in the back of the head with a forearm as well. I mean, we've seen some calls by defensive backs making plays on receivers tonight. That was one.
It is third down, 22 seconds, no timeouts. From here, a field goal attempt is 52 to 53 yards. How about your range check? In the pregame, the long for Hall was 52.
You can work the middle of the football field because you'll have enough time if you get the first down to spike it.
Brunell's throw is caught by Randall out of bounds. He is shy of the first down, so it is fourth down, but a field goal from here is 47 yards, a little bit closer, 17 seconds left.
I think that John Hall has not kicked from over 40 yards this whole year. I believe he was 0 for 4 in the preseason and only hit from 32 and 38.
Last year, he was 5 for 6 from this distance.
His pressure kick record.
Certainly Mark Brunell did his job to give him a chance.
So did Betts with the kick return. Here's Hall from 48 to tie the game. Drifting, no good. Missed it left. Good pressure by the Vikings coming in. And Minnesota's going to get out of here in all likelihood with one. Fred Smoot came diving in from the end.
Joe Gibbs doesn't like to look at him. Now he really won't like to look at that one. Brad Childress, he's willing to watch.
And he will now join Jimmy Johnson as the only head coaches to beat Joe Gibbs for their first NFL head coaching win. Obviously, Gibbs wasn't a Hall of Famer when that happened with Johnson, but he is here as Hall's field goal is missed. Brad Johnson comes back to Washington, takes a knee, and will take Minnesota back on the charter at 1-0.
And he joins 9 other coaches in the league that have won away this weekend.
Beating a playoff team on the road for your first game. Baltimore did it. Atlanta did it. Somebody else did it that I'm blanking on now. Indianapolis beat a playoff team on the road, and now Minnesota has done it on the road.
Some words there with Daniels and McKinney at the end of the game. John Jansen and Brad Johnson, former Washington teammates, exchanging greetings. And there they are. Two of the veteran manage-the-game quarterbacks who did the job tonight. Those guys live in very similar shoes and very successful shoes here tonight. Here's Michelle with Brad Johnson.
Brad, the Redskins with that opportunity to tie it with the field goal. What's going through your mind as that kick was attempted?
Mark did a great job of just putting them in field goal position. They did a great job with no timeouts, and my heart's kind of stopping over there. But really, you know, I was tying my shoes getting ready for an overtime game, but fortunately, it was a little wide left for us, and turned out great.
Prior to that, on your final scoring drive, the field goal drive, you had just the ability to hand off to Chester Taylor again and again and again. What did that feel like to be able to rely on your running back?
Well, we needed that. We took a lot of hits during preseason, but we stayed with our running game all night long. He put us in field goal position, took care of the ball, secured it, and closed the game out. It was a great feeling to win here, especially in Washington Stadium.
Congratulations, Brad.
Thanks, Phil.
And Johnson and the Vikings, Michelle, become the 10th team to win on the road in this opening weekend. It's the most since 1983. And San Diego will try to make it 11 right now out in Oakland. Great start to our Monday Night Football run. Chargers and Raiders are next. We see you next week in Jacksonville with the Super Bowl champion Steelers. Susie Kalber, Michelle Tafoya with Joe Theismann, Tony Kornheiser in the booth. Thanks to our producer, Jay Rothman, director, Chip Dean, our entire crew, Mike Tirico, saying thanks for watching this presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Off we go to Oakland, and here's Brad Nessler.
A sold-out McAfee Coliseum in Oakland, California. Tonight, as we wrap up the NFL kickoff weekend, 2 of the NFL's brightest stars, LaDainian Tomlinson of the Chargers and Randy Moss of the Oakland Raiders. And they are all set and looking to shine in the bright light.